Chapter 499. In the royal study of the Elven Queen, a few female officials were cleaning the study. One of the female officials accidentally touched a box engraved with beautiful patterns, and the box fell to the ground. "Why are you so clumsy? Quickly place the box properly. If the queen sees it, she will definitely scold you," the female official reprimanded. The female official who had slipped up hurriedly placed the box properly. After cleaning the study, the female officials left. The box was still placed properly. In a corner of the study, there was a flash of light in an inconspicuous shabby ring. A magical space appeared in the royal study of the Elven Queen. In the magical space, a chubby, pink egg revealed its true appearance. "Pop, pop, where did my dear master go?" The puffed egg was muddle-headed. It remembered that it had fallen into the hands of the Elven Queen. Then, the old witch used a special magic seal to imprison it in the orc language ring, causing it to lose contact with its little master. 3 years had passed since then. If the female official had not accidentally smashed the box and broken the magic seal on the box, it would have been trapped in the box for the rest of its life. "Pop, pop, there's the scent of my little master." The puffed egg was sensitive enough to smell Yunsheng's scent. It carefully hid its body and slipped out of the royal study. After strolling around the Elven King tree, the puffed egg found traces of Yunsheng. It originally wanted to pounce on her and give its little master a longing hug, but it noticed that the Elven Queen, who had sealed it earlier, was sending off the Elven warriors. Its little master was also in the group. Looking at her, it seemed like she did not know anything. The Elven warriors rode on their unicorns and left the Elven King tree. The puffed egg thought for a while and followed behind, tailing Yunsheng all the way. The unicorns were very tame, but they were much faster than ordinary magic beasts. Yunsheng rode on the unicorns and passed through the clouds. The beautiful scenery of the immortal residence nation was completely seen by her. "It's a deal," Yunsheng agreed without hesitation. The special thing about the demon sealing arrow was the demon sealing magic on the arrow. This kind of magic didn't need to be chanted. It only needed to be smeared on the arrowhead with the blood of the snow wyvern, which was unique to the elves. In order to compete with Huiao, Yunsheng had prepared some devil-sealing arrows. Divine Wind deliberately gave one of his storage rings to Yunsheng. Yunsheng also placed the Millennium Ice Zither inside. Although it was a trial, she always had a feeling that this trial would not be so simple. Divine Wind reported this matter to the Elf Queen, and the Elf Queen did not have any objections. The Night Goblin clan was getting more and more arrogant these days. It was time for someone to clean them up. Divine Wind and Yunsheng, Huiyu and Huayao left the Elven Royal Court and headed towards the Holy Mountain. Their destination this time was a mountain near the Fire Tribe's elves' residence. The name of the valley was the Fire Elves' Sacred Mountain. The elves and demons could be considered close relatives. However, the Night Goblins were different. They were an evil force among the demons. After betraying the demons, they hid in the Fire Elves' Sacred Mountain. Huiyu and his sister did not immediately leave like the other nobles. Part of the reason was that the Night Goblin clan was hiding in the Elven Sacred Mountain. In fact, this group of Night Goblins with less than 1,000 people is very difficult to deal with. We have sent at least 3 groups of Elven warriors, but none of them returned. When Huiyu talked about serious matters, he revealed some of the imposing manner of a patriarch. He also explained the situation of the Night Goblin clan to Yunsheng in detail. The Night Goblin clan was a very special clan. They only appeared at night. Because of their dark blue skin, it was very difficult to find them even when there was moonlight at night. Their appearance was very similar to ordinary elves. However, they were only about 1/10 the size of elves. Most of the Night Goblins had bat-shaped wings and pointed ears. The most special thing about the Night Goblin clan is their voice. The song of the Night Goblin clan is very confusing and can easily cause people to hallucinate. Huiyu told Yunsheng all the information he knew about the Night Goblin clan. In front is the Fire Elves' Sacred Mountain. This mountainous area is also the Fire Elves' Sacred Mountain. Usually, other than the few great elven patriarchs, the Elven Queen, and the Elven Warriors, outsiders are not allowed to enter. With the help of the unicorn, Yun Sheng, Divine Wind, and the others rushed to the Fire Elves' sacred mountain. Yun Sheng looked down. The first thing she saw was a fiery red land. Most of the immortal residents' countries were emerald green and full of vitality. However, the Fire Elves' sacred valley was an anomaly. It was a quiet volcano in a red world. On the periphery of the mountainous area, there were flaming maples. The maple leaves were red like fire all year round. In this mountainous area, all the creatures were red. From the leaves to the soil, everything was red. The Fire Elves' sacred mountain was already like this when the ancestors of the elves lived here 10,000 years ago. However, it was also this place that was full of the Fire Elves' elements that miraculously gave birth to the most mysterious treasure of the elves, the water of life. In the deepest part of the Fire Elves' sacred mountain, in the depths of a lava of fire, there was a volcanic crater. In the middle of the volcanic crater, there was a spring that flowed endlessly. That spring was the water of life that could cure all kinds of diseases in the Elven tribe. Because the location of the water of life could change at any time, it was very difficult to collect. Even the Elven King tree, there were only about 10 bottles of water of life all year round. Every year, a few of the most agile warriors of the Fire Elves would die in the Fire Elves' sacred mountain because they collected the water of life. This was also why the Fire Elves' sacred mountain had such a high status among the elves. Therefore, after learning that Yun Sheng had taken several bottles of the water of life, the Fire Elves had a lot of opinions about her. These opinions were secretly concealed by Divine Wind, so Yun Sheng didn't know about it. The Night Demon clan has two most powerful abilities. One is their agility. The Night Demon's agility can be considered first class among the elves. Even I, who have the Wind attribute, may not be able to gain an advantage when I encounter the Night Demon Queen. The other is their singing. Their singing can evoke the darkest memories in people's hearts. Remember, once you encounter the Night Demon's singing, you must immediately seal your 5 senses and 6 senses. Divine Wind told Yun Sheng all kinds of information about the Night Demons along the way. After Divine Wind finished speaking, he handed a jade bow to Yun Sheng. This bow was used when he was young to learn archery. The Fire Elves' sacred mountain was a semi-dormant volcano. Looking from afar, Yun Sheng could see a mountain about 3 to 4 kilometers above sea level. At the top of the mountain was a volcanic crater. ***** crawl to eat. At around 8 o'clock, there will be a chapter with double monthly votes. Thank you for your support. *****. Chapter 500. From afar, Yun Sheng could see a mountain that was about 3 to 4,000 meters above sea level. At the top of the mountain, there was a crater. The crater of the volcano was filled with hot magma. The hot environment made people's physical strength deplete faster. Semi-dormant meant that the volcano was likely to erupt at any time. It was also possible that it would be dormant for a long time. However, even the Fire Elves who had lived beside the elf volcano for a long time could not figure out the pattern of this semi-dormant volcano. According to Huiyu, this semi-dormant volcano had 2 seasons in a year that were relatively safe, spring and autumn. Yun Sheng and the others chose to enter the sacred mountain of the Fire Elves in autumn. It's daytime now, and we haven't seen the night goblins yet. We need to wait until nighttime when the temperature is slightly lower before we set off. Huiyu and Divine Wind each led a team of elven warriors. Even the Fire Elves felt a little strenuous when they entered the sacred mountain of fire. This also surprised Huiyu, Huiyaoyao, and the others. They thought that Yun Sheng, who did not have a magical physique, would not be able to get close to the sacred mountain of the Fire Elves. However, the truth was the opposite. Yun Sheng was in high spirits all the way. After entering the sacred mountain of the Fire Elves, she did not even sweat. Looking at her appearance, she did not have any reaction to the high temperature around her. Huiyu could not help but wonder what kind of mixed blood elf Yun Sheng was. Earlier, he had also privately probed Divine Wind, but Divine Wind was unwilling to say a word. This, on the contrary, made Yun Sheng's background even more bizarre. Only Divine Wind knew that the reason why Yun Sheng was not afraid of the high temperature of the sacred mountain of the Fire Elves was because of the Hellfire Elf brand on her forehead. 3 years ago, the Elven Queen cured Yun Sheng. However, at the same time, she added a seal to the Hellfire Elf brand on Yun Sheng's forehead. It was this seal that sealed all of Yun Sheng's memories and the fact that she had the Hellfire Elf in her body. Yun Sheng only knew that there was a faint red birthmark on her forehead. That was actually the seal of the Elven Hellfire. Yun Sheng and the others waited at the entrance for half a day. It was only when night fell that the two groups of people set off again. Yun Sheng, didn't we agree that it would be a competition between the two of us? You can't be thinking of hiding behind the Divine Wind King the entire time, right? Hui Yaoyao saw that the Divine Wind King was always by Yun Sheng's side. Apart from being jealous, she was also secretly annoyed. Divine Wind had always been by Yun Sheng's side, so how could she find an opportunity to strike? Hui Yaoyao had already come up with a vicious plan when her elder brother had suggested that the Elven Royal Court go to the Fire Elves' sacred mountain to kill Night Demon. She planned to secretly kill Yun Sheng in the Fire Spirit's sacred mountain. The lava at the volcano of the Fire Spirit's sacred mountain was the hottest lava in the world. Even elves would turn into rotten flesh if they came into contact with it. Okay, the two of us will go forward alone. If we encounter the Night Demon clan, we'll attack. Yun Sheng didn't know that there was a trap. The two of them ignored Divine Wind and Hua Yu's obstruction and left the group to go to the place with the most Night Demon clan members. Nonsense. Hua Yu had a headache. Divine Wind, you don't have to worry. I'll order a few elven warriors to follow us. It's still early, so there aren't many night demons around. Divine Wind nodded. The temperature at the volcano's crater was very high at night. The red volcano illuminated the surroundings in a red hue. Yun Sheng and Hui Yaoyao continued forward. What surprised them was that they didn't encounter many night demons along the way. Even if they did, they would immediately run away when they saw people. The night demons' movement skills were indeed extraordinary. Hui Yaoyao chased them all the way, but they still managed to escape. Just as Hui Yaoyao was gasping for breath, there was a fluctuation of magic behind her. Yun Sheng saw a magic ripple, and without any hesitation, she knocked an arrow on her bow. A gust of wind blew, and a night goblin hiding nearby was struck by a demon sealing arrow, revealing his body. It was a blue-green skinned elf. What was hit by the demon's sealing arrow, its face was full of horror. The demon's sealing arrow had sealed its magic. Filthy night demon. Hui Yaoyao was secretly surprised when she saw Yun Sheng's arrow succeed. She didn't expect Yun Sheng's archery skills to be better than hers. She had learned elven archery for so long, so how could she lose to a half-elven mixed blood? The night demon's concealment magic was very powerful. Thinking back to just now, if it wasn't for Yun Sheng's arrow, Hui Yaoyao would have been dead by now. Hui Yaoyao's life was saved by Yun Sheng. Not only was she not grateful to Yun Sheng, but she was even more jealous. She glared angrily and cast a magic fire scythe in her hand. She viciously slashed down as if venting her anger and chopped off the night demon's head. The night demon's blue blood flowed all over the ground. When it fell into Yun Sheng's eyes, it was a ghastly sight. What are you doing? Yun Sheng didn't expect Hui Yaoyao to be so vicious. What are you doing? Didn't we agree that whoever kills the most night demons wins? You only hit just now. I killed this night demon, Hui Yaoyao said rudely. She also noticed that there were a few guards of the Fire Fairy clan following behind them. Hui Yaoyao secretly made a signal to them. The guards understood and quietly left. Now, only Yun Sheng and Hui Yaoyao were left. The Night Demon clan was also a branch of the Elven race, but Hui Yaoyao didn't show them any mercy. This made Yun Sheng see for the first time the cruelty of purebred elves. She had previously thought that all elves were like the Divine Wind, disliking war and treating people kindly. What? Are you scared? If you're scared, then admit defeat and get out of the Elven race. A dirty mixed blood wants to seduce the Divine Wind. Hui Yaoyao's beautiful face distorted. Her red hair was like the flames of a demon. The outcome is still undecided. Yun Sheng snorted and walked forward with her bow. However, she was already on guard against Hui Yaoyao. Although Yun Sheng was walking in front, she was always careful of Hui Yaoyao behind her. Hui Yaoyao wanted to attack several times, but was discovered by Yun Sheng. Damn mixed-blood elf, I'll let you live a little longer. When we reach the crater, I'll definitely make sure you die without a complete corpse. After Hui Yaoyao confirmed that there were no other elves following them, she and Yun Sheng walked along the winding mountain path, looking for the Night Demon clan. As they approached the crater, the temperature in the illusion increased. Soon, Yun Sheng and Hui Yaoyao's elven armor was soaked. We haven't seen any night demons along the way. It seems that the killing just now has scared this group of cowardly branch descendants. Let's go to the crater. That should be the gathering place of the Night Demon clan. That's where we'll have the real fight, Hui Yaoyao said hypocritically. Let's wait for the divine wind to come up. The strength of a Night Demon queen is no small matter. Yun Sheng didn't want to be fooled and stopped halfway up the mountain. Don't you want to see the wonders of the crater? Let me tell you, except for the elven warriors who collect holy water, it's very difficult for outsiders to see the wonders of the crater. Hui Yaoyao continued to persuade. Yun Sheng raised her head and looked at the crater not far away. It was already faintly visible. Suddenly, her eyebrows jumped. There was a very strange feeling, as if something was calling out to her from the crater. I'm sincerely grateful for today. Bow, I'll work hard. Little Yun Yun will soon explode. Chapter 501. Yun Sheng looked down again, but she still didn't see Divine Wind and the others. She thought that as long as she was careful, she wouldn't fall into Hui Yaoyao's trap. The two of them continued to go up. In front of them was a huge volcanic crater the size of a football field. The volcanic crater was filled with flames, but there were no signs of life. It was like a sea of fire, and the dormant lava that had been dormant for a long time was slowly flowing. The most shocking thing about this volcano was that there was a small island in the middle of the volcanic crater. Different from the other places in the Fire Elf Sacred Mountain, this small island was actually a glacier island. The island wasn't big, only about 10 square meters in size. A few rugged ice rocks could be vaguely seen on the island, but apart from that, there was nothing else. Yun Sheng knew that there was a spring in the middle of the island. The elven race's most precious treasure, the water of life, was obtained from that spring. Yun Sheng was attracted by the picturesque scenery of the lava glacier island. For a moment, she forgot that she was traveling with Hui Yaoyao. A sinister smile appeared on Hui Yaoyao's enchanting face. She knew that people who saw the lava glacier island for the first time would show such an infatuated expression. The water of life, the elven race's most precious treasure, was no small matter. Hui Yaoyao took the opportunity to walk behind Yun Sheng. With a sudden push, she pushed Yun Sheng into the boiling lava. Puffed Egg, who had been sneakily following behind Yun Sheng, happened to see this scene. He saw Yun Sheng fall into the lava with his own eyes, and didn't even have time to call for help. Hui Yaoyao had a sinister smile on her face, as if her scheme had succeeded. The lava in the volcanic crater was scorching hot. Hui Yaoyao had once witnessed a brave elven warrior being instantly swallowed by the lava. Yun Sheng was only a half-breed. If she fell into the lava, she would definitely die without a complete corpse. Later, as long as she told Divine Wind that she and Yun Sheng had been separated for a long time, and that Yun Sheng had accidentally fallen into the crater, she believed that no one would suspect her anymore. Yun Sheng was pushed into the volcanic crater, and when her body was engulfed by the lava, an inconspicuous black shadow quickly rushed into the lava. Yun Sheng thought that she was going to die this time. The molten lava of the Fire Elves' Sacred Mountain would turn even steel into molten iron immediately. Although she was a half-spirit, she was still made of flesh and blood. But when she fell into the rolling lava, she didn't feel the pain and scalding heat that she had expected. She only felt waves of warmth, and she also felt that her body had obtained a mysterious power because of this lava. What's going on? Yun Sheng held her breath and used both her hands and feet to float in the lava as if she was swimming. But this volcanic crater was really too big, and Yunsheng could only paddle towards a glacier island. Yunsheng climbed onto the glacier island. Just as she was about to take a closer look at her surroundings, she heard the soft sound of flapping wings above her head. "Pop, pop, my dearest master, I've finally found you." Yunsheng steadied herself and looked up. She almost couldn't catch her breath. Her black eyes widened. What kind of monster was that? In the sky, a flying egg was circling around her head. That egg looked very strange. It was pink all over, just like a half-steamed egg. But did an egg have wings? The egg above her head had a pair of rather eye-catching white feathered wings. "What kind of monster are you?" Yunsheng shivered. The demon-sealing bow on her body had melted after falling into the volcanic crater. Now, she didn't have any weapons on her. "Pop, pop, not a monster." That egg trembled agitatedly, as if it had been greatly humiliated. Immediately, tears burst out like a flood. The cries were extremely tragic. Yunsheng could feel that because of its cries, the magma in the volcano, which was originally considered quiet, was faintly boiling. Damn, what kind of monster was this? Even a half-dormant volcano couldn't stand it anymore. Stop! Yunsheng's scalp was about to explode from its crying. She didn't know why, but facing such a strange magical beast, Yunsheng was not afraid. Instead, she felt very close to it. The puffed egg immediately stopped crying. It didn't forget to twitch a few times. Pop Pop is not a monster. Pop Pop is your natal summoned beast. You are a summoner. This is Master's beast language ring. Wear it. Master will be able to use the summoner's power. The puffed egg carefully placed the beast language ring on Yunsheng's hand. When Yunsheng saw the ring, she felt a sense of familiarity with it. She hesitated for a while, then put on the beast language ring. This feeling is so familiar. Yunsheng didn't immediately regain her memory. She looked at the puffed egg. Just now, a very special force entered her body. In the beast language ring, there was a magic scepter, some other items, and the exquisite pagoda. These things gave Yunsheng a very familiar feeling. Why is this happening? What exactly am I? Yunsheng tried hard to think, but her brain was still a mess. She couldn't remember anything. A slight wave of magic made a slight sound. Yunsheng noticed that there was a wooden box in the ring. It was bouncing around as if it was filled with a living creature. At this time, she noticed that there was another box in the ring. It was as if there was a voice in her heart constantly reminding her to open the box. Yunsheng opened the box. Inside was a skinny hand. The voice came from this hand. In her mind, there was a new term, summoning demon hand. Originally, the summoning demon hand would only move when it was being used. However, at this moment, the 5 fingers that were as dry as firewood actually moved. The middle finger slowly raised and pointed to a certain area on Glacier Island. Although it was not close, Yunsheng could already hear the sound of flowing water. "Little Master, this is the guide of the 8 Barons artifact. There must be a treasure of the 8 Barons artifact level ahead." The puffed egg was very excited. Compared to humans, magical beasts were more sensitive to treasures. When it entered with the beast language ring, it felt a very strong life force. This life force was even stronger than the purest water of life. Yunsheng hesitated for a moment. She realized that she must have forgotten something. This body of hers did not seem to be afraid of lava. Perhaps the location of the water of life, which was very dangerous even to the fire elves, was an opportunity for her. Yunsheng put on the beast language ring and swam towards the depths of the volcano with the puffed egg. For some reason, Yunsheng felt that the temperature of the lava around her was getting higher and higher. Her forehead started to sweat. The elven armor on her body couldn't withstand the temperature and was burned into rags. Her body suddenly felt cold. The temperature seemed to have dropped. Chapter 502. What Yunsheng didn't know was that after she fell into the crater of the volcano, the temperature at the back of the mountain, which was already very high, suddenly rose a lot, as if someone suddenly added fire to the crater of the volcano. Even the Fire Elves clan didn't dare to rashly approach the crater of the volcano. Divine Wind and the others also realized this, so they were forced to stop at the periphery, looking for the whereabouts of the Night Demon Queen. Yunsheng walked to the center of the volcanic island. In the center of this isolated island, there was a fountain, and the spring water was gushing out. Water of life? Yunsheng found several bottles in the beast language ring. She didn't hesitate to fill all the bottles. The water of life could only be found by chance. Even when Yunsheng was injured, she could only use the holy water of elves once a year. When she bent down to get the water, Yunsheng found that the fingers of the summoned beast in the box trembled even more. It seemed to be reminding Yunsheng that there was something hidden in the water. Could it be that there is something under the spring? Yunsheng looked at the spring. She looked carefully and found that under the crystal-clear spring, there was a faint light flashing. At the bottom of the spring, there was really something buried. If one didn't look carefully, no one would notice that light. Yunsheng simply dropped the bottle and used both hands to dig out the soft soil near the spring. Slowly, something came out from under the water. Yunsheng saw a delicate small wine cup. The size of the wine cup, which was polished with a crystal material, was slightly bigger than the wine cups that the elves often drank in banquets. It looked very similar to the shape of the trophy that was won in some competitions. Looking at the material, it was a silver cup. When the wine cup appeared, the summoned beast that had been restless all the time stopped and became calm again. The immortal Holy Grail. Still, no one told Yunsheng, but in her mind, a memory about the immortal Holy Grail naturally appeared. The immortal Holy Grail, the immortal Holy Grail. According to legend, there was a holy spring in the Holy Grail, which could cure all the poisons in the world. It was the second 8 Barons divine artifact. Staring at the cup that had just been scooped out of the water, Yunsheng felt thirsty. This Holy Grail should belong to the elves. But there was a strong voice in the bottom of her heart telling Yunsheng that she must obtain this cup. This cup was very important to her. Yunsheng took the cup out of the spring water. When the cup left the water of life that had been gushing out suddenly stopped. It was as if someone had blocked the mouth of the spring. It turned out that the reason why the immortal Keeper Nation's elves were able to obtain the water of life wasn't just because of the water of life. The true reason was because of the immortal Holy Grail. It was unknown when the immortal Holy Grail had been buried in the Fire Spirit Mountain. Yunsheng had just taken out her wine glass when there was a sharp screech in the air, as if a bat was screaming above her head. In the sky above the glacier island, there was already a dense group of night charms flying around. This group of dark blue-skinned night charms were different from the small night charms that Yunsheng had seen earlier. They were bigger in size and held spears in their hands. There were more than 1,000 of them. They were the night charms, the elites of the charm clan. In the middle of the night charms, there was a graceful and luxurious queen of charms. Ka, the queen of night charms' charming and beautiful face had an additional fierceness as she stared at the immortal Holy Grail in Yunsheng's hand. Yunsheng understood that the reason why these charm clan had gathered at the Fire Spirit Mountain was not like what Divine Wind and the others had thought, which was because they coveted the water of life. What they really wanted was the immortal Holy Grail under the spring of life. But the night charms weren't sure of the exact location of the Holy Grail, so they could only occupy the periphery. Who knew that Yunsheng would accidentally enter the volcano island because of Hua Yao Yao, and even find the immortal Holy Grail with the guidance of the summoning demon hand. Ka Ka. The Queen of Night Charms made a threatening gesture towards Yunsheng. She raised her hand, and the thousands of night charms beside her all raised the spears in their hands. Ka Ka, little master, they want you to hand over the Holy Grail. The puffed egg understood the Queen of Night Charms' strange cry. Tell them, if they want the Holy Grail, they can come and snatch it. Yunsheng quickly put the immortal Holy Grail into the beast language ring and prepared to jump into the lava behind her. She knew that she wouldn't be affected by the lava, so she wanted to escape immediately. Who knew that just as Yunsheng took a step, the night charms let out a sharp cry. That cry was mournful and sharp, as if someone had suddenly hit Yunsheng's head with a heavy object. All the strength in her body suddenly disappeared, and she felt very uncomfortable. Yun Sheng hugged her head and knelt on the ground in pain. The night charm sound wave attack was really powerful. Master, let me merge with you quickly. Second battle technique. The Queen of Night Charm's demonic sound wave was very powerful, but it had no effect on the puffed egg. I don't remember anything. Yinsheng wanted to, but she couldn't. She didn't remember what a fusion battle technique was, and she also didn't remember what a summoner was. Yinsheng's forehead suddenly hurt. The Elven Queen's seal, where the Elven Hellfire brand was originally, was boiling hot. The more Yinsheng thought about it, the more her head felt like it was going to explode, preventing her from thinking any further. She was now just a piece of trash. The puffed egg was also anxious. It didn't care so much anymore. It flapped its wings and ignored the spears of the night charms. The puffed egg used one wing to cover Yunsheng, and only used one wing to fly forward. Caw-caw. It doesn't hurt or itch, you bunch of useless night charms. The puffed egg didn't forget to use its but to aim at the angry night charms while flying, and kept attacking them verbally. Caw-caw-caw. The Queen of Night Charms was also angry. No one, not even the elves, dared to look down on her existence like this. That egg. The night charms were like headless flies, following the puffed egg and flying away from the volcanic island. The situation looked very comical. A group of night charms followed behind a flying egg that was stumbling. You said little Sheng accidentally fell into the crater of the volcano? How could this be? Huiao, did you do something? When Divine Wind learned that Yun Sheng fell into the crater of the volcano, he only felt a wave of depression in his heart. He knew that Yun Sheng had the Elven Hellfire body, but her Elven Hellfire brand had been sealed by the Queen. Divine Wind didn't know if this would affect her. It has nothing to do with me. She was greedy and wanted to kill a few more night charms, so she fell in herself. Huiao pretended to look guilty, but she sneered in her heart. At this moment, that bastard mixed blood had probably become a skeleton under the volcano. The Divine Wind finally belonged to her. Not good. Divine Wind King, Chief, there's a large group of night charms approaching from the front. The Fire Elf soldiers heard a whistling sound. It was the sound of a large group of night charms approaching. Chapter 503. Not far away, Divine Wind, Huiyu, and the others also saw this strange scene. What the hell is that? Huiyu's mouth was wide open. Were his eyes playing tricks on him? That was an egg. It's very likely a strange magic beast bred by the volcano. Huiyu and the others didn't dare to be careless. The elven archers were all on alert and pointed at the strange egg in the air. Pop, pop. We're on the same side. Don't shoot. The puffed egg looked at the elves below and saw that they were all pointing their bows at it. Although the spears of the night demons and the arrows of the elves could not cause fatal damage to it, it would still hurt. Unfortunately, only Yunsheng could understand the puffed egg's words. In the ears of Divine Wind and the others, it was just a mess of popping sounds. Wait, little Sheng, is under its wing. Divine Wind caught a glimpse of the corner of Baby Popping's clothes. Under one of Baby Popping's wings was a person. They didn't know whether that strange egg was a friend or foe. In a situation where they didn't know who was friend or foe, Divine Wind didn't dare to hurt that egg. Not good. It's the Night Demon Queen. The elven archers also saw the shocking number of night demons. Shoot, be careful not to hit that egg. Divine Wind immediately rose into the air and prepared to save Yunsheng, who knew that the egg was very agile. When it saw Divine Wind coming over, it flew far away with a whoosh. The night demons and the elven archers were also engaged in a fierce battle. But compared to the well-trained palace archers, although the night demons had a large number, most of their attacks were not organized. In just a moment, nearly 100 night demons were killed. On the other hand, the elven archers were getting braver as they fought. Huiyu also commanded the warriors of the fire elves to attack the night demons with fire arrows and various firewalls from time to time. The Night Demon Queen saw her subordinates die one by one under the arrows and was so angry that she screamed. She was resentful and blamed Yunsheng for taking away the immortal Holy Grail that she coveted the most. Ga. The night demon queen let out a piercing scream. When all the night demons heard the sound, they suddenly raised the spears in their hands and shot towards the sky together. That scene was so soul-stirring. The 1,000 night demons did not hesitate at all. They solemnly closed their eyes. The sharp spears stabbed down like a rain of arrows, piercing the throats of the night demons and piercing their chests. The corpses of the night demons fell from the sky. Their blue-green blood splashed and rolled into the lava, dyeing the lava a blue-green color. Not good. Night Demon Queen had gone mad. Retreat. Everyone, withdraw from the Fire Fairy's sacred mountain immediately. Huiyu turned pale with fright. He didn't understand why the Night Demon Queen would suddenly order the night demons to do such a thing, but his intuition told him that such a strange action was very similar to the night demon's sacrificial ceremony. Huiyu's clansmen and the Night Demon Queen had fought against each other several times. In the early days, the fire spirits and the night demons had mostly fought to a draw. When the fire spirits retreated, the fire spirits were the sacred mountain, so the night demons would not chase after them. But this time, the night demons were ruthless. They didn't know what had provoked the Night Demon Queen. Huiyu naturally didn't know that the reason the Night Demon Queen had led the night demons to guard the fire spirit's sacred mountain was to find the immortal Holy Grail. The immortal Holy Grail, to the night demons, had a very special meaning. Previously, in order to find the immortal Holy Grail, the night demons would not fight the fire spirits head-on. But Yun Sheng accidentally intruded and took away the immortal Holy Grail, which forced the Night Demon Queen to go mad. She swore to take back the immortal Holy Grail. When the 1,000 night demon warriors died at the same time, the blue-green blood gathered together and flowed unceasingly to the Night Demon Queen, forming a magic array. The enchanting Night Demon Queen had a solemn expression. She stared at the sky and muttered. As the magic array was activated, the Night Demon Queen's mouth let out a melodious song. Blood Prison Demon Song, the Night Demon Clan's supreme demon song. The singing was like a young girl's, so beautiful that those who heard the song forgot that they were in the middle of a fierce battle. The elves put down the bows in their hands, intoxicated by the song. Even Divine Wind, Huiyu, Huiyao Yao, and the others felt that they had no fighting spirit. Listening to the beautiful song, they all fell into a state where they forgot about themselves. Suddenly, blue-green blood light flashed in the magic array. Ghostly voices floated out from the magic array. They turned into evil spirits and pounced on the elves. Thousands of evil spirits bared their fangs and brandished their claws, tearing and gnawing at the elves' flesh and blood, letting out disgusting cackles. The fire spirit's sacred mountain was covered in blood. It had become a hell for evil spirits. Beside Yun Sheng's ears, she could also hear that terrifying singing voice intermittently. When she first heard the song, she also unconsciously fell into it. Scenes of illusions floated in her mind. In Yun Sheng's mind, strange memory fragments appeared one after another. In the fragments, there were many figures swaying. Father, Night Fox, Mother, Yun Residence. Listening to the song, the names and figures overlapped in Yun Sheng's mind. At the same time, the zither song that was played at the birthday banquet appeared in her mind. 222. Her forehead jumped as if something was going to drill out of it. The puffed egg also realized that its little master seemed to be uncomfortable. It put Yin Sheng on the ground. Yin Sheng subconsciously took out the 1,000-year ice zither. That zither song. She realized that this zither song might be able to alleviate her current predicament. If she didn't break the blood prison demon song, Divine Wind, and those innocent elves would all die here. Resisting the pain in her head, Yun Sheng's fingers gently plucked the zither strings. The zither music sounded. The unique melody of the Di Hong song played in the fire spirit's sacred mountain. The elves, who had fallen into a state of madness, suddenly woke up. As soon as they opened their eyes, they were shocked to find those ghosts. Divine Wind broke apart a few wind blades in his hands, cutting a few ghosts that were close to him in half. He followed the sound of the zither and looked over. He saw Yun Sheng sitting cross-legged not far away. Her expression was peaceful. Her fingers stroked the surface of the zither like a breeze. The music of the Blood Prison Demon song and the Di Hong song collided. Even Queen Night Demon didn't understand why that seemingly ordinary mixed-blood elf girl could play the zither music that could break the Blood Prison Demon song. The two kinds of music were completely different. One was like the sound of nature, and the other was like the song of a ghost prison. Neither Yun Sheng nor Queen Night Demon stopped. They were secretly competing. Hui Yaoyao's beautiful eyes were full of resentment when she saw that Yun Sheng didn't die. While Divine Wind, Hui Yu, and the other elves were immersed in the two different kinds of music, she secretly picked up her bow and arrow. The bow and arrow were aimed at Yun Sheng's head. Hui Yaoyao was very vicious. She was afraid that Yun Sheng wouldn't die, so she added a flame arrow to the bow and arrow. The bowstring vibrated, and a beam of fire shot into the sky, shooting towards Yun Sheng. Chapter 504. Yao Yao, what are you doing? Huayu was very close to his sister. He felt a magical fluctuation beside him. When he turned around, he was stunned. A flame soared into the sky, shooting towards Yun Sheng. Hui Yaoyao's archery was very accurate. The arrow left the bowstring and shot straight towards Yun Sheng's head. Seeing this, Divine Wind's expression changed greatly. He immediately urged the wind to change the direction of the arrow. But no matter how fast Divine Wind's chanting was, he was still one step too slow. He only made the arrow slightly deviate from its direction. Yun Sheng was immersed in playing the Di Hong song. With the sound of the zither, she felt that her headache was alleviated a lot. The figures that were originally wandering in her mind were also connected. Under her hand, Trillium's hand was moving, and the strings were plucked faster and faster. Di Honga became even more agitated and majestic, like an army of thousands of men and horses charging towards Night Demon Queen. Night Demon Queen also felt the change in her opponent's zither music. It was very strong. The sound of the mixed-blood elf girl's zither was like a war song, making Night Demon Queen's heart beat faster and unable to control herself. Gah! Night Demon Queen finally couldn't bear it. She spat out a mouthful of blue-green blood, and her whole body collapsed on the ground. She was no longer as arrogant as before. The moment Night Demon Queen was defeated, Yun Sheng's zither strings paused. She felt that in her mind, vague memory fragments appeared one after another. Just as she was trying to string all the memory fragments together, she felt a sense of danger approaching. A demon sealing arrow was shooting toward her face. It was too late to dodge. The arrow pierced Yun Sheng's forehead. A burst of blood could be seen, and the blood instantly blurred Yun Sheng's eyes. Boom! Just when everyone thought that Yun Sheng's blood would splatter on the spot, a terrifying power gushed out from Yun Sheng's forehead. That power actually repelled Hui Yaoyao's arrow, instantly burning it to ashes. There was a terrifying beast roar. Yun Sheng felt her entire body tremble. Her forehead felt as if it had been bitten by a mosquito. At the same time, she felt as if something had peeled off from her forehead. Yun Sheng. Shenfeng's painful cry came from afar. Mother! A beautiful woman's face appeared in Yun Sheng's mind. Hu Jiuxing. Her memories quickly came back to her, and Yun Sheng suddenly remembered everything. She was Yun Sheng. She was Yun Sheng from Zhou State, a summoner and a magician of the 5 elements. She came to the immortal abode to search for the water of life to heal her father. She met her mother, Hu Jiuxing, who should have died long ago. The scenes of Icefall City came back to him like a movie in reverse. In the chaos, Yun Sheng heard the Night Demon Queen's sharp cry. Without hesitation, the beast language ring on Yun Sheng's hand flickered. In the next moment, Yun Sheng and the puffed egg became one. In the blink of an eye, Yun Sheng appeared in front of the Demon Queen. All of her Night Demon subordinates had already been executed. Even the Blood Prison Demon song had been broken by Di Hong's song. She held the summoning demon hand in her hand. Night Demon Queen, I, as a summoner, contract with you. The powerful pressure of the summoning demon hand made the physically and mentally exhausted Night Demon Queen unable to resist. She meekly knelt on the ground. Yun Sheng put the Night Demon Queen into the fairy space. Yun Sheng, so you're not a fairy? Hui Yaoyao was dumbstruck. Shen Feng looked at Yun Sheng in a daze. She finally recovered her memories. On her forehead, where the demon's sealing arrow had just pierced, there was only a red mark left. A bright red fairy hellfire brand appeared on Yun Sheng's forehead. That arrow had unintentionally broken the Elven Queen's magic seal. Unexpectedly, Hui Yaoyao's arrow made Yun Sheng recover her memories. A summoner was a summoner of the human race. Unexpectedly, the girl who was carefully protected by the Holy Wind King as the apple of his eye turned out to be a human. The elves were at a loss. At the same time, they also realized that Yun Sheng was a very powerful summoner. Just now, she had contracted the Night Demon Queen. The Night Demon Queen was an existence comparable to a king fairy. The Yun Sheng in front of them was clearly Yun Sheng, but she was not Yun Sheng. A nice zither, a pair of black eyes. At that moment, her face was like fire and ice. Big brother, she is a human. She pretended to be a mixed-blood fairy and approached the Holy Wind King. She has some unspeakable secret. Kill her. Hui Yaoyao was shocked and frightened when she saw that she failed to kill Yun Sheng with one arrow. Hui Yu's expression was serious. He looked at Shen Feng, only to see that the latter didn't say a word. His eyes seemed to be frozen, resting on Yun Sheng's body. Every time she took a step, Shen Feng's eyes also followed her. Shen Feng, Hui Yu wanted to ask for his opinion. This was the holy land of the fairy race. It was already a capital offense for a human to enter. Shen Feng looked at Yun Sheng, his blue eyes revealing a trace of sadness at this moment. Little Sheng, I'm sorry. I've never blamed you, Yun Sheng said with a calm smile. Shen Feng, thank you for taking care of me all this time. Her smile was very bright, but her tone was so distant. Shen Feng discovered that in the past 3 years, Yun Sheng had never smiled like today. In these 3 years, she was doted on by him. She seemed to be carefree every day, but there was never a day when she would smile like this. He thought that he had given her the greatest freedom, but in fact, he had broken her wings. Shen Feng felt a burst of regret in his heart, but this regret came too late. He knew that it was impossible for him and Yun Sheng to be together. Shen Feng, are we just going to let go like this? She probably entered the volcanic island and stole the water of life. That is the holy water of the fairy race. How can we allow others to sully it? Hui Yaoyao said angrily. Steal? Yun Sheng sneered in her heart. Now that the immortal Holy Grail was already in her hands, did she still need to steal? Without the immortal Holy Grail, the water of life wouldn't change much in the short term. However, after a long time, the water of life would dry up. Now that she had contracted the Night Demon Queen, for the fairies who didn't know the truth, they would never know that the immortal Holy Grail was buried under the water of life. I won't let anyone hurt her. Shen Feng glanced at Hui Yu. Yaoyao, forget it. Hui Yu knew Shen Feng's temper. Shen Feng was the heir to the throne. The immortal keeper country would be his sooner or later. The fire fairy race would always be his subordinates. Moreover, Hui Yaoyao was indeed in the wrong for today's matter. Hui Yu still wanted to settle the matter peacefully. Forget it. Who said that? Yun Sheng raised her eyebrows. First you pushed me into the volcano, then you secretly attacked me. With these two things added together, even if you want to forget it, you still have to ask whether I agree or not. Those who offend me, Yun Sheng die. Chapter 505. When Hui Yu and the Fire Elves heard this, their faces turned ugly. Divine Wind's expression changed. His blue eyes were as cold as ice. Hui Yaoyao dared to touch little Sheng. She had to die. Hui Yaoyao was a bit flustered when she saw the silence. She bit her lips and refused to admit it. You're slandering me. No one had seen her push Yun Sheng into the crater. Besides, Yun Sheng wasn't injured at all. Even if the first thing was slandering you, you sneak attacked me in front of everyone. Everyone clearly saw that I was kind enough to use the Di Hong song to break the Bloodhell Demon's song. But you repaid my kindness with enmity and shot me with an arrow. You call me a lowly bastard, but when it comes to lowliness, no one is more lowly than you. Yin Sheng mocked. Although she had insulted Hui Yao Yao, the fire spirits present were left speechless. They couldn't say a single word. The elven archers from the elven royal court also looked at Hui Yao Yao with contempt. They all thought that Hui Yao Yao's actions had blasphemed their elven arrows. Hui Yao Yao was a noble lady of the elven race. She was also beautiful and had always been the center of attention. She had never been humiliated to the point of being unable to raise her head. She looked at her elder brother Huiyu for help, but Huiyu could only shake his head helplessly. They had all seen Hui Yao Yao's despicable actions. If the fire fairies and Huiyu denied it, it would be a disgrace to the fire fairies' honor. For the elves, honor and integrity were the most important. Hui Yao Yao, is an elven clansman. A clansman has made a mistake and should be punished by the patriarch. You should follow the rules, Divine Wind said indifferently. The moment Yun Sheng recovered her memories, he was shocked, annoyed, and a bit guilty. But Divine Wind also knew that everything had already happened. There was no way to go back to the past. Yun Sheng and Divine Wind's eyes met. She looked away. Divine Wind's heart suddenly shrank. His heart felt empty. He knew that there were some things that he had lost forever. After recovering her memories, Yun Sheng didn't blame Divine Wind. She knew that it was the Elf Queen's idea to seal her memories and her Dharma soul. In these 3 years, Shen Feng had been meticulous with her. He could have taken advantage of the time when she had lost her memories to make her his, but he didn't do so. According to the rules of the Fire Elves, do not do unto others what you would not have them do unto you. If you do unto others, do unto them tenfold. Yao Yao, you must be punished, Huiyu said with difficulty. The punishment of the elves had always been cruel, especially for the Fire Elves. Their temperament was unyielding and upright, and there was no room for falsehood. Return the favor tenfold. What he meant was that he would return the favor with 10 arrows. 10 arrows. Furthermore, it was aimed at his forehead. Hui Yao Yao's face immediately lost all color. Fetch the arrows. At Divine Wind's command, the captain of the archers beside him took out a quiver of devil-sealing arrows and a sturdy elven crossbow and handed them to Yun Sheng. How could we not be worried? However, as the patriarch of the Fire Elves, and in front of Divine Wind, he didn't dare to have the slightest thought of shielding his sister. If he had to blame someone, he could only blame his sister, Hui Yao Yao, for being too willful. Brother, she'll kill me. Hui Yao Yao was truly a loss for words. She couldn't cry for help. She pleaded with Divine Wind, but who would have thought that Divine Wind would flick his sleeve and shake her off as if she was filthy? She wanted to beg her brother again, but Huiyu also retreated to the side. The elven archers didn't look sideways, and the warriors of the Fire Elves didn't dare to stop them. Yun Sheng, you just injured me. The Fire Elves won't let you off. Seeing Yun Sheng pull the bow without any scruples, Hui Yao Yao wanted to escape. Brother, Hui Yao Yao felt extremely wronged. She looked at Yun Sheng's arrow in horror. She couldn't dodge or even run away. If she did, she would be disobeying the Fire Elves' rules and would be expelled from the tribe. Yun Sheng took the arrow and pointed it at Hui Yao Yao without any hesitation. Huiyu frowned. Although he knew that his sister was in the wrong, if Yun Sheng really killed Hui Yao Yao in front of him, he definitely wouldn't let Yun Sheng off. Even if he had to use the power of the Fire Elves and offend Divine Wind, he would still kill Yun Sheng. Yun Sheng, remember, you are stepping on the territory of the immortal Keeper country, the holy land of the Fire Elves, Huiyu threatened Yun Sheng. Humph! Yun Sheng sneered. Her eyes focused, and the devil-sealing bow in her hand was already stretched taut. She was about to shoot when she suddenly put down her bow. Yun Sheng smiled and glanced at Huiyu. Patriarch Hua, are you threatening me? I'm very timid and can't stand up to threats. Since that's the case, I'll be lenient for the sake of Patriarch Hua. After saying that, Yun Sheng reached out and broke the arrowhead. Once the arrowhead was removed, Huiyu couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. The most dangerous thing about the devil-sealing arrow was its arrowhead. Without the arrowhead, only the body of the arrow was left. The threat it could cause was limited. When Huiyu saw this, her previous fear disappeared. She sneered, "Yin Sheng, weren't you always so arrogant? Turns out you're only SOSO. You want to use the body of an arrow to shoot me? You're dreaming. I should be thanking you for helping me recover my memories." Yin Sheng walked towards Huiyu. Yin Sheng had a moving smile on her face. Although her smile was moving, Huiyu felt a sense of fear under Yin Sheng's gaze. Huiyu was so scared that she took a few steps back. She looked at the fire elves around her and her brother on the side and felt a little more confident. Yin Sheng wasn't willing to let it go. It was fine if she hadn't recovered her memories, but now that she had, she was no longer the elven mixed-blood girl with no worries. "Believe it or not, I can still take your cheap life with an arrow without an arrowhead." Yin Sheng's voice suddenly turned sharp. She suddenly pulled the bow and poured a strand of elven hellfire into the arrow. In an instant, the entire arrow body began to burn like red-hot iron. She released her finger, and the arrow left the bowstring. Huiyu didn't feel anything at first, but when the arrow approached, she suddenly felt a terrifying swallowing force rushing towards her. The arrow was very fast. Huiyu didn't have time to make a move to stop it. She only felt a burning sensation on her face. A wave of heat brushed past her forehead. There was a moment of hesitation on her coquettish face. Suddenly, her forehead erupted like a volcano. "Ah!" Huiyu screamed. At the same time, her forehead was pierced by the arrow. Her whole body instantly burned, turning into a flaming person. It was as if someone had poured a basin of oil on her. "Yin Sheng, you dare!" Huiyu saw this scene and was about to explode in anger. "Quickly save the young miss." Chapter 506. The arrow just now had come too quickly. Everyone had clearly seen that Yin Sheng had already broken the arrowhead, so how could it still pierce through Huiyu's head? Furthermore, there was such a huge fire on her body. Who dares to go up? That's elven hellfire. Even if you're a member of the elven tribe, you'll die if you touch it. Yin Sheng held her bow horizontally, her gaze like a torch. At that moment, even Huiyu felt intimidated. Elven hellfire. The elves who wanted to attack all stopped. When the fire elves heard this name, they felt their knees go weak. They looked at Huiyu in alarm. The fire spirit clan's physique made them innately unafraid of fire. They weren't afraid of any ordinary flames. Even fire element magic was much less harmful to them compared to ordinary people. Judging from the intensity of the fire on Huiyu's body was indeed not ordinary. Huiyu wailed in pain. Huiyu couldn't bear to watch and wanted to save her. But as soon as he touched the fire, his body was burned with blisters. Even the patriarch was like this, not to mention the other fire elves. The fire elves could only watch as Huiyu was burned to ashes. Divine Wind saw all of this, but didn't show much surprise. What kind of person was Yin Sheng? She was the bloody lowly that made the entire Zhou state's hunting world tremble. Roses had thorns in the end. It was like this when she was young, let alone now. She had lived in the immortal Zhou nation for 3 years and lost her memory. But once she regained her memories, she would be the haggard Yin Sheng again. Huiyu had framed her twice. If she let it go, then she wouldn't be Yin Sheng. The other elves also had looks of disdain. They also despised Huiyu's actions. They felt that her actions had lost face for the elves. Her life and death had nothing to do with them. Huiyu was burned to ashes alive. Seeing Huiyu's death, Divine Wind's first reaction was to protect Yin Sheng behind him. "Huiyu, if you want to settle accounts, then come at me." Divine Wind knew Huiyu's temper. Seeing his own sister die in front of him, he definitely wouldn't let it go. Huiyu forced a smile and ordered his men to collect Huiyu's ashes. To Divine Wind's surprise, he didn't order the fire elves to attack. On the contrary, he led the fire elves to kneel down together. Huiyu no longer had the domineering expression of the chief of the fire elves. He respectfully said, "The current chief of the fire elves tribe. Huiyu, leads a group of elves to ask for forgiveness from the successor of the Fire Queen. Huiyu did not expect Yunsheng to be the successor of the Fire Elf Queen. The group immediately rushed back to the imperial court. The Elven Queen was also shocked when she found out that the heir of the Fire Elf Queen, who had been missing for many years, was Yunsheng. Huiyu, are you sure? Is she really the successor of the Elven Queen? A long time ago, the Immortal Keeper Nation was made up of 4 small nations. The predecessors of each small nation were the 4 major tribes. At that time, although the nation was divided, the Immortal Keeper Nation was the strongest because the Elven Queens of the 4 small nations had the legendary god's inheritance. But at some point in time, several Elven Queens fell one after another, leaving only the Wind Elven Queen bloodline. After losing the 3 Elven Queens, the tribes were in turmoil. In desperation, the Wind Elven Queen unified the Immortal Keeper Nation and established the Elven Imperial Court. It was also because of the fall of the 3 Elven Queens that the Immortal Keeper Nation closed its doors to avoid external disasters. In the tribes that lost their Elven Queens, there was a saying that one day, the successor of the Elven Queens would reappear. The appearance of a successor would bring new life and prosperity to the Elven tribes. Previously, because of the Elven Queen's seal, Huiyu didn't notice the Elven Hellfire on Yunsheng. But once the seal was removed and Yunsheng attacked, the fact that she had the Elven Hellfire was exposed. The terrifying Hellfire devoured Huiyu as soon as it appeared. If it was said that Huiyu had the intention to avenge his sister earlier, he no longer had that thought after finding out the identity of Yunsheng's successor. To the elves, the identity of the Elven heir was even higher than that of the chief. Huiyu, are you sure? This is a serious matter. The Elven Queen only knew that Yunsheng had the Fire Elven brand on her, but she didn't expect that brand to be the symbol of the successor. Your Majesty, the only flame that can hurt me is the Elven Hellfire. Huiyu trembled in fear at the thought of his sister plotting to kill the Elven heir that the Elven tribe had been searching for many years. The Elven Queen fell silent after hearing that. She walked in front of Yunsheng and looked directly at Yunsheng. Yunsheng, where did you get the Elven Hellfire? The Earth's core, smelted cave. I got it from the magic array guarded by the mythical Bee Swanee. Yunsheng had already guessed that the magician who fought with the mythical Bee Swanee was most likely the previous Fire Elven Queen. The mythical Bee Swanee was famous for being a Fire Elven mythical beast. It seemed that Huiyu was telling the truth. The Elven Queen thought that it was also good that Yunsheng got the Hellfire Elven inheritance. Earlier at the birthday banquet, there were people who questioned whether Yunsheng's identity was qualified to be Divine Wind's wife. But if she became the successor of the elves and led the Fire Elven tribe, then her identity would be different. Through her union with Divine Wind, she could control the Fire Elven tribe that had always been rebellious. This was an unexpected gain. The Elven Queen thought, Yunsheng, are you willing to marry Divine Wind as the successor of the Fire Elven tribe and inherit the position of chief of the Fire Elven tribe? Yunsheng didn't expect the Elven Queen to make such a request. Divine Wind looked at Yunsheng expectantly. In her impression, the Elven Queen didn't like her. After she recovered her memory, Yunsheng didn't think that the Elven Queen would let her go. Yunsheng didn't know how important the Elven inheritance was to the Elven tribe. Yunsheng was now the successor of the Fire Elven tribe. If she wanted, she could mobilize the power of the entire Fire Elven tribe at any time. Even if she wanted to leave the immortal residence country, it was also possible. The Elven Queen naturally didn't want to lose the Fire Elven tribe, the bravest and most belligerent of the elves. She wanted Divine Wind and Yunsheng to marry. Part of the reason was to control the Fire Elven tribe. Another reason was because she knew that Divine Wind had deep feelings for Yunsheng. I don't want to, although he already knew that Yunsheng would say this. When those words came out of Yunsheng's mouth, Divine Wind's heart couldn't help but ache. It's not up to you to not want to. The Elven Queen's expression froze. A tornado surrounded Yunsheng. When Huiyu and the others saw this, they hurriedly stood up, wanting to protect Yunsheng. Yunsheng, You are really ungrateful. 3 years ago, I could save you. 3 years later, I can destroy you. How can the immortal residence country be a place where you can come and go as you please? The Elven Queen was furious. She thought that Yun Sheng should at least know how to be grateful. Chapter 507. 3 years ago, for her sake, Divine Wind had put down his status and didn't hesitate to fall out with her, his mother, in order to keep Yun Sheng by his side. As soon as she regained her memories, she wanted to leave. Divine Wind's expression just now, the pain between his eyebrows, she, as his mother, saw it all and felt pain in her heart. Elven Queen, even if you tear me to pieces, I won't change my mind. Yun Sheng was fearless in the face of the tornado that could tear her to pieces at any time. Queen, please be merciful. An inheritor is hard to come by in 1,000 years. You, including the fire elves, were all on guard. Elf Queen, Yun Sheng will always remember your care for the past 3 years. You want me to stay because you love Divine Wind, I understand. But who doesn't have family and friends? Yun Sheng paused. My father is now heavily poisoned and has been in a coma for 6 years, waiting for me to go back and treat him. I always thought that my mother had died. It wasn't until 3 years ago that I found out that my mother was still alive, but she doesn't recognize me at all. Let me ask you, if it were you, Elf Queen, would you be able to abandon your parents, stay in the immortal Ju nation, and live a happy life? Yun Sheng's words heavily struck the hearts of everyone present. After recovering her memories, Yun Sheng had suffered every minute and second. She was worried that in the 3 years she lived happily in the immortal Ju nation, too many unexpected things had happened on the continent. She was even more afraid that by the time she rushed back to Zhou State, everything would be too late. The Elf Queen couldn't help but be moved. She also didn't expect that Yun Sheng, at such a young age, would carry so many burdens. Mother Empress, let her go, Divine Wind said with great difficulty. Divine Wind, are you really willing to let her go? If she leaves, she will never come back. The Elf Queen could see Divine Wind's pain. She knew how deep Divine Wind's love for Yun Sheng was. In the past 3 years, she hadn't paid attention to Divine Wind at all times. Divine Wind was of noble birth. Since he was young, he could get whatever he wanted, but it was Yun Sheng. He couldn't ask for more, but he couldn't let go. This would be the biggest obstacle to his growth. Shen Feng smiled bitterly. He looked at Yun Sheng. His peerless face was as gentle as before. It was so gentle that it could make people drunk. Little Sheng, have you ever loved me? Yun Sheng was silent. Her heart spun 1,000 times. She already had an answer, but her tongue seemed to weigh 1,000 pounds. She couldn't say anything. She didn't hate Kamikaze. No one would hate a man who was wholeheartedly good to them. Moreover, that man was gentle, considerate, and had a noble background. In the past 3 years, Yun Sheng could be said to like Divine Wind. But that was just love. Although she had lost her memory, Yun Sheng subconsciously treated Divine Wind as the only person she could get close to. She was an orphan since she was young. She didn't have any brothers or sisters. Divine Wind was knowledgeable, skilled in both literature and martial arts. He could be said to be the ideal big brother for all the girls in the world. He was her big brother, but not her lover. Moreover, Yun Sheng couldn't stay in the immortal residence. She still had many things to do. Together with Divine Wind, Yun Sheng could forget all her worries. At the end of July, he would carry Yun Sheng to the highest branch of the King Tree and accompany her to watch the stars for an entire night. He would also hold her trembling hands and help her adjust the bowstring. But choosing him was tantamount to giving up on everyone behind her. Her family, her parents, her friends, and her companions. Yun Sheng's silence made Divine Wind understand. Divine Wind closed his eyes. His heart was filled with bitterness. Divine Wind, I like you very much. The next moment, the girl's clear voice made Divine Wind open his eyes. It was like not love, but at least, somewhere in her heart, there was still a place for him. At that moment, Divine Wind's heart was filled with mixed feelings. Mother Empress let her go. In exchange, I am willing to inherit the throne and protect the immortal residence nation for the rest of my life. Divine Wind knelt on one knee and sincerely begged the Elven Queen. 3 years ago, it was a similar situation, but at that time, Divine Wind had only agreed to inherit the throne. But today, he was willing to completely give up his freedom and let Yunsheng leave. The Elven Queen sighed. She glanced at Divine Wind, who was still kneeling on the ground, unwilling to get up. She seemed to see her past self in Divine Wind. Mother and son, in the end, both chose to give up their happiness. Sometimes, letting go was also a kind of happiness. Under Divine Wind's insistence, Yunsheng left. Divine Wind was sitting in the study room. He was reviewing memorials, as usual. The female official beside him reminded, "Crown Prince, Miss Yun is leaving." Divine Wind didn't say a word. His eyes were still glued to the memorial. The female official looked at Divine Wind's appearance and sighed softly. Suddenly, Divine Wind put down the memorial, and his figure rushed out like an arrow. In the blink of an eye, he arrived in the sky above Icefall City. At the edge of the vast snow forest sea, Yunsheng's figure had already disappeared in a white mist. She still left. Divine Wind was stunned for a moment. Suddenly, a burst of zither music reached his ears. The sound of the zither was intermittent and incessant. Divine Wind seemed to hear Yunsheng in his ears. The sound of the zither was continuous, as if it was narrating the bits and pieces of him and Yunsheng spent the past 3 years together. Little Shenger, if one day you are tired, I will always be here waiting for you. His voice spread far and wide. The figure in front of him paused. Yunsheng lowered her head, hot tears hovering in her eyes. The immortal residence nation was a place away from worldly affairs. Here, time seemed to have stopped. Yunsheng now had a half-elf body. Her physique had become purer, and her 5 senses had become sharper. Yunsheng heard Divine Wind's voice, but she didn't turn around. She was afraid that if she did, she wouldn't be able to hold back her tears. It had been 3 years. Although the moment she regained consciousness, she resented Divine Wind. She resented Divine Wind for causing her to lose her memories and leave behind so many people who were important to her. But she knew that Divine Wind's love for her was sincere. In this world, it would be difficult to find someone who was so pure and good to her. Divine Wind, I'm sorry. Yunsheng carried the zither and walked out of the snow forest sea step by step. Divine Wind gazed into the distance. The corners of his mouth slightly bent down, his throat trembled, and his eyes were moist. He had thousands of words to say, but in the end he didn't say them. I used my freedom in exchange for yours. Yunsheng, Empress Mother said that I was the most unruly wind in the immortal residence nation. When I met you, I was already unable to move forward. This was his first love in his life. Yunsheng was a cool breeze in his life. In those 3 years, the wind stayed by his side. Unfortunately, the wind would always be the wind. She would leave one day. Divine Wind raised his hand, as if to grab the figure in the depths of the snow forest sea who was gradually walking away. A wisp of wind blew, warm and moist. The wind only lingered on his hand for a moment, affectionate and heartless, then left. Even that moment was enough to warm Divine Wind for a lifetime. Chapter 508. In the snow forest sea, the cedar trees moved away one by one as Yunsheng walked out of the snow forest sea. The cold aura gradually disappeared, leaving behind a verdant landscape. I'm back. Looking at the immortal Jew country behind her, the scenery in front of her is still the same. Yunsheng smiled. At that moment, even the most dazzling autumn sunshine was overshadowed. After Yunsheng left the immortal Jew country, she went all the way south, rushing to Zhou State. In 3 years, she cut off contact with everyone. Yin Mansion, second uncle, little C.I. Intong, Night Fox, she has a lot of things to tell them. Yunsheng stopped for a short time on the way and released all the magical beasts in the exquisite beast pagoda. Just as she released the magical beasts, she heard a howl. A black shadow scurried over and flipped Yunsheng to the ground. The black mastiff, which is as tall as Yun Sheng, licked Yun Sheng's face several times. Its wet tongue made Yun Sheng's face full of saliva. Xiao He. Yun Sheng found out that the black shadow was actually Xiao He. For 3 years, the exquisite beast pagoda stored in the beast language ring has been placed in the Elf Queen's imperial study. Due to the special nature of the beast language ring, the Elf Queen can't check the items in the beast language ring. The exquisite beast pagoda and the summoning devil's hand. These 2 treasures were saved from falling into the hands of others. The immortal Jew country is a land of elves. The spiritual energy here is very pure. The magical beasts in the exquisite beast pagoda have been cultivating under such unique conditions for 3 years. Coupled with the exquisite beast pagoda itself, in 3 years, Yun Sheng's magical beasts have all undergone amazing changes except for the puffed egg. Little Black's transformation was especially shocking. He had grown from the size of a pet dog to an adult mastiff the size of a small pony. He had black fur all over his body, and his hair was slightly curly. His mastiff's eyes were as fierce as a wolf's. Its temperament was also more brutal than before. Other than Yun Sheng, even if Egg Burglar approached, it would bare its ghastly teeth and issue a warning to the person. The 100-legged ant general transformed from an early commander rank magical beast to a peak commander rank magical beast. He can now hatch tens of thousands of ant beasts in a day and night. The one who changed the least was the puffed egg. Its body is still pink, and its pair of wings is still the same. Yun Sheng was speechless when she heard the same bo-bo that came and went every day. Yun Sheng and Hu Jiusheng. She didn't have a chance to ask Hu Jiusheng what kind of magical beast puffed egg. Finally, Yun Sheng's gaze fell on the Night Demon Queen who has just been successfully contracted. Among the magical beasts, the Night Demon Queen should be said to be the highest rank. Her appearance, other than the color of her skin, is the closest to a human. It can be said that she is a miniature version of a human. After the Night Demon Queen was contracted by Yun Sheng, Yun Sheng extracted some useful memories from her memory. Among them is the reason why the Night Demon Queen entered the Fire Elf Sacred Mountain to find the immortal Holy Grail. The reason why the Night Demon Queen is looking for the immortal Holy Grail is to use the purest spring of life flowing from the immortal Holy Grail to purify the Night Demon's body. As everyone knows, the Night Demon is a type of nocturnal magical beast. Their body is because of their special blue-green skin. This kind of skin, once exposed to sunlight, will be burned and even die. There has always been a legend about the Night Demon's special body. The Night Demon clan was originally a mixed race of elves. Their first queen is a very beautiful mixed-blood elven singer. She has a very beautiful voice and unparalleled beauty. Because of this, she won the love of a young noble in the elven race. But that young noble's fiancé, because of jealousy, secretly poisoned the mixed-blood elf. The poisoned mixed-blood elf's snow-white skin turned into an ugly blue-green color. She can't see the light and can only hide in the darkest depths of the forest valley. That was the ancestor of the Night Demon clan. Starting from the first Night Demon Queen, many generations of Night Demons after that were the same. And because they can't see the light, most of the Night Demons can only appear at night. Their bodies are very weak and generally can't live past 30 years old. Such a short life brought endless pain to countless Night Demons. They have been searching for all sorts of ways to reverse their tragic fate. So, it has been like this since your ancestors? Why didn't you think of using the Spring of Life until now? Yun Sheng is very familiar with the history of the elves. Although the Spring of Life is precious, with the strength of the Night Demon clan, it is not difficult to steal a bottle. The Spring of Life can't change our bodies. Only the Spring of Life, the water in the immortal Holy Grail, can help us change our misfortune. The Night Demon Queen told Yun Sheng in detail. The place where the immortal Holy Grail is buried originally has an artesian spring. The water in the immortal Holy Grail has been diluted by the artesian spring, so its effect is greatly reduced. So the Night Demon Queen was determined to seize the immortal Holy Grail. But she didn't expect to meet Yun Sheng. who has awakened her summoning ability. Who told you that the immortal Holy Grail is in the Fire Elves' sacred mountain? The elves of the immortal residence country obviously didn't know about this. Otherwise, they wouldn't have let Yin Sheng get away with it so easily. It's an unknown magic beast. It broke into the Night Demon Clan's territory one day and told me. The Night Demon Queen also didn't know where that magic beast came from. What kind of magic beast is that? A magic beast that can break into the Night Demon Clan's territory and know the whereabouts of the immortal Holy Grail can't be simple. The Night Demon Queen showed an awkward expression. She shook her head in distress. I don't remember. I only know that it was a magic beast that told me, but I can't remember its specific appearance and origin. Yin Sheng checked the Night Demon Queen's memory and found that she wasn't lying. That magic beast of unknown origin seemed to have used a kind of hypnotic method to make the Night Demon Queen look for the immortal Holy Grail, according to its words. But she didn't realize that she was under someone's control at all. If Yin Sheng hadn't made a contract with the Night Demon Queen later, she would have been muddle-headed and handed the immortal Holy Grail to that magic beast after obtaining it. Although she didn't directly find the mastermind behind the Night Demon Clan, Yin Sheng made a discovery. Night Demon, I killed a lot of your clansmen along the way and took away the immortal Holy Grail. As compensation, I'll help you solve the doubts that have troubled your clansmen for many years. The blue-green skin and photophobia of the Night Demon Clan have nothing to do with poison or physique. The real reason is because the Night Demon Clan has long intermarried. Yin Sheng didn't think that there was any poison in the world that could still work after so many generations. Chapter 509. When she checked the body of the Night Demon Queen, she found that her fingers and toes were one more than the ordinary elves. Combined with what the Night Demon Queen had said earlier, Yin Sheng thought of a modern case. She saw it in a news article about a similar case in a certain oceanic island country. The residents there had blue skin, blue blood, and they were afraid of the sun. After the modern medical research, they found that the reason why these people had abnormal skin and were afraid of the sun was not because of the mutation of the human body, but because they lived on the island all year round. The residents of the island could only marry close relatives. As a result of the long-term marriage of close relatives, the residents became like that. The situation of the Night Demon Queen in front of her was very similar to the situation of the blue-blooded people in the oceanic island country. Yin Sheng asked the Night Demon Queen about the intermarriage of the Night Demon tribe, and it was as she guessed. To some extent, the immortal Holy Grail that the unknown magical beast said can save your people. This matter is not completely wrong. The spring of life can purify a part of your mutated blood caused by the intermarriage. Your people's life can be prolonged, and they can also live under the sun for a short time. But to completely reverse your fate, you must abolish the intermarriage. I have written a letter to Divine Wind, telling him about the Night Demon tribe. I believe he will make the corresponding arrangements. Yin Sheng's words made the Night Demon Queen feel relieved. The Night Demon Queen was a magical beast at the peak of the commander level. Compared to the ordinary magical beasts, she had wisdom. She was subdued by Yin Sheng only because of the summoning magic hand. She was still not convinced by Yin Sheng. After all, the other party was just an ordinary summoner. But if Yin Sheng could change the fate of her tribe, then everything would be different. I have obtained the immortal Holy Grail. I can provide a part of the spring of life to you. You can give it to your people, and then let them not make trouble and live peacefully with the local elves. It only takes 10 to 20 years, and the newborn babies of the Night Demon tribe will become normal mixed-blood elves. Yin Sheng's voice fell, and the Night Demon Queen had respectfully knelt down. If she was still a little unconvinced before, then she was now completely submissive to this new master. What Yin Sheng didn't know was that because of her unintentional action today, she had completely changed the fate of thousands of Night Charm clan members. In the long years to come, countless demon empresses would remember this person's name. That person had changed the fate that had troubled their entire race for so many years. Thank you, Master. From today onwards, I will be loyal to you forever. In order to thank you, please accept my soul stone." Queen Yigu's words shocked Yunsheng. "Soul stone? I can't take your soul stone. I'm a healer. The matter of the Night Demon Clan is as easy as lifting a finger. A soul stone is equivalent to taking your life. I can't take it." Yunsheng had never thought of killing the Night Demon Queen. To her, a Peak Commander magical beast was much more useful than a soul stone. She didn't need a fourth soul stone for the time being. 3 years of blank memories had caused her magic cultivation to stagnate. Moreover, she had lived in the immortal residence for 3 years and spent a long time with the fairies. The original violent aura in her body had been diluted a lot. She didn't want to hurt the magical beast too much. "Master, don't misunderstand. You don't need to kill me to use my soul stone." Queen Yigu and Yunsheng had already untied the knot in their hearts. Queen Yigu pursed her lips and smiled. She boldly said, "Master, if I'm not wrong, there's already a soul stone of the Demon Clan on your magic scepter." Yunsheng had been a magic loser for 3 years. Her magic scepter was still the same as before. It was still a master magician. There were a total of 3 soul stones on it. Although there were only 3 of them, each one of them was extraordinary. The first one was a mutant fire-type soul stone that Yunsheng had personally hunted down. It had a fairy's blessing imprint. The second one was a spirit stone of the Demon Clan that Divine Wind had given her. It had the attribute of wind and had a paralyzing effect. The third one was a spirit stone of the Hellfire Fairy. It was condensed from the energy of Hellfire after Yunsheng obtained the Hellfire Fairy imprint. These 3 soul stones could be said to be a luxurious lineup in the world of soul stones. They were priceless treasures in the eyes of every master magician. Not to mention other things, just the fact that they were used separately on the magic scepters of different magicians was already amazing enough. Needless to say, they were used on an ordinary magician who is only a master magician. The soul stone of the Demon Clan is very special. It can exist in the form of a living body. "Master, you don't need to kill me to get your 4th soul stone." After Queen Yigu finished speaking, her graceful figure transformed into a ray of black light and attached to the magic scepter. There was actually an additional soul stone on the magic scepter. The 4th soul stone? What was going on? Before Yunsheng could understand what was going on, she felt that her magic soul had changed. Yunsheng was very familiar with this feeling. It was the feeling of breaking through. In the past 3 years, Yunsheng had almost never done magic meditation because of her amnesia. But this did not mean that her magic cultivation had not improved. On the contrary, because she was in the immortal Ju Nation, she absorbed the purest elven magic elements every day. Coupled with the purifying effect of the water of life, Yunsheng's body had already continued to have a large amount of magic elements. It was only because her magic soul was imprisoned that Yunsheng had been unable to break through. Today, she unlocked the seal and unexpectedly obtained the 4th soul stone. A part of the magic elements in Queen Yigu's soul stone entered her body. It actually allowed Yunsheng to break through at once. The process of breaking through lasted for the whole night. When Yunsheng woke up in the morning, she felt that her magic soul had grown bigger. She looked down at her magic scepter. To her surprise, the 4th soul stone from earlier had mysteriously disappeared. "Master, there is no need to panic. My magic attribute is darkness. After this soul stone is attached to your magic scepter, you will obtain an additional magic attribute called concealment. As long as you are willing, you can hide your strength and the magic soul stone on your magic scepter." Queen Yigu let out a pleasant laugh. This additional attribute was very good. Yunsheng nodded. She was most happy to pretend to be a pig to eat a tiger. Now, Yunsheng was already a saint mage. It was only because of the 4th soul stone that Yunsheng's cultivation still looked like that of a master mage. Even her magic scepter only had 3 magic soul stones. Yunsheng was very satisfied with this. When experts were exchanging blows, showing weakness at an appropriate time was very beneficial to her in the battle. A saint mage disguised as a master magician would definitely gain the upper hand in future battles. Chapter 510. Master, although you have obtained the immortal Holy Grail, you still can't completely use the Holy Grail. You need to let the Holy Grail recognize you as its master. The Night Demon Queen had already wholeheartedly submitted to Yun Sheng. Not only did she tell Yun Sheng the wonderful use of the immortal Holy Grail, she also taught Yun Sheng a set of Night Demon Clan's movement technique, the Shadowless movement technique. After Yun Sheng learned this movement technique, not only would her daily movement technique be greatly improved, but at night, Yun Sheng could also hide her body very well. After Yun Sheng learned the Shadowless movement technique, she took out the immortal Holy Grail according to the Night Demon Queen's instructions. What surprised her was that after the Holy Grail left the Fire Elf's sacred mountain, it became an empty cup. There was no trace of a spring of life inside. It couldn't be broken, right? Yun Sheng knocked on the Holy Grail. Master, you don't need to panic. The Holy Grail was originally a treasure of the elves, so only the elves' magic can awaken it. Try to integrate the magic in your body into the Holy Grail. The Night Demon Queen smiled enchantingly. Yun Sheng slowly activated the magic in her body. When her special 5-elemental magic was integrated into the Holy Grail actually trembled violently. From the Holy Grail, a clear spring water gushed out. But what surprised Yun Sheng was that at the same time the spring water appeared, a blue-clothed elf appeared in the Holy Grail. This blue-clothed elf's appearance was very similar to a Barbie doll. Her body was only the size of a thumb, but she was wearing an elf crown. Her long golden hair softly hung down to her ankles. Her eyes were as blue as the sky. On the crown, there were a few water-blue magic crystals. She was a tender little Lolita. The blue-clothed little Lolita seemed to have been asleep for a long time. When she woke up, she opened her curious blue eyes, which were full of doubts. She glanced at Yun Sheng, then flapped her wings and flew to Yun Sheng's side. She carefully sniffed around her. When she discovered that Yun Sheng was not an elf, but a human, the little Lolita was obviously very depressed. You're the one who woke me up, but you're not an elf. The blue-clothed elf looked very depressed. She flew back into the immortal Holy Grail and kicked the water of life inside with her bare feet. Yun Sheng and the Night Demon Queen beside her felt their hearts ache when they thought of the water of life that could cure all kinds of diseases that countless people coveted. The two of them almost said in unison in their hearts, "If it's not necessary, I'd rather die than drink the water of life." Master, I'm afraid this little fellow is the successor of the Water Fairy Queen, one of the 4 fairy queens who has been missing for a long time. The water fairy element on her body is the strongest I have ever seen, even stronger than the Water Fairy clan's patriarch. You must subdue her and use her for you. Queen Night Demon secretly told Yun Sheng. Queen Night Demon lived in the dark all year round. Her scheming mind was much better than Yun Sheng's. The immortal Jew country was an elf country, but as early as more than 1,000 years ago, the 4 fairy queens of the 4 natural elements had fallen one after another. The Wind Fairy Queen was the only one left. The other 3 fairy queens' inheritances had been lost. For many years, the elf clan's elves have been looking for the inheritances left behind by the 3 fairy queens. Yun Sheng inadvertently obtained the inheritance of the Fire Fairy Queen. The Fairy Hellfire was the inheritance of the Fire Fairy Queen. Among the elves, there had always been a legend that the one who could obtain the inheritance of the Fairy Queen would be the next Fairy Queen. Therefore, those fire elves were in awe of Yun Sheng. Even the Fire Fairy clan's patriarch, Huiyu, had to bow his head when he saw Yun Sheng. Yun Sheng also realized that after the little fairy appeared, there was a kind of fresh water fragrance in the surroundings, as if everything had been washed. Although the little fellow was very young, her strength was not small. If she is really the successor of the Water Fairy Queen, why don't we send her back to the Water Fairy clan? Yun Sheng had secretly taken away the immortal Holy Grail, and she already owed the elves, especially the Divine Wind. Moreover, the inheritance of the elves was so important. Yunsheng did not want to break the inheritance of the four fairy queens. Master, you have good intentions, but look at her appearance. She is clearly a child who has not grown up yet. She is completely naive. Right now, the immortal Jew country is not as peaceful as you think. I'm afraid that before she grows up, she will already be obliterated. Queen Night Demon was very disdainful of Yunsheng's naive thinking. The elves were extremely xenophobic. Within the elf clan, there were also all kinds of scheming. Just by their attitude towards the Night Demon clan, one could see many problems. Yunsheng could not help but think of the Fairy Queen's birthday banquet. She could roughly see the scheming between the various patriarchs and the elves. Looking at the little fairy that looked like a newborn, Yunsheng couldn't help but hesitate. Yunsheng thought for a while and also figured out. She walked in front of the Water Fairy Queen. Little fellow, although I'm not an elf, I have the scent of an elf on me. The elf tilted her head and wrinkled her delicate nose. Yes, you have the scent of at least 2 elves on you. You seem to be my companion. The elf's logic was very simple. Since her companion recognized Yunsheng, then she should also recognize Yunsheng. Then, are you willing to follow me to other places in the continent to take a look? After Yunsheng obtained the immortal Holy Grail, she would definitely not return it in a short period of time. She still had to treat her father's illness. And the elf in front of her should be the source of the immortal Holy Grail's medical effects. The Water Fairy Queen was originally the fairy queen with the strongest healing ability among the 4 fairy queens. No, you are a human. My mother said that I can't trust humans. The elf was young, but her temper was very stubborn. Before she fell asleep in the immortal Holy Grail, she had received her mother's advice that she must be on guard against the human race. She refused to go. So what should she do? Yunsheng looked at the elf's insistent face. After thinking for a while, she found a few gadgets from the storage ring. These were all the gadgets that Shan Feng had given her to play with earlier, from various snacks to all kinds of jewelry that girls liked. When Yunsheng left, Shan Feng ordered people to give some of her things and his storage ring to Yunsheng. Inside the storage ring, there were all kinds of things. There were also some precious treasures of the elf clan, as well as snacks, candied fruits, and gadgets that Yunsheng liked when she was in the immortal Jew country. For girls, these were all very lethal. But the elf didn't even look at them. She was young and didn't dare to be interested in these things. Yunsheng and Night Demon Queen looked at each other in dismay. They both had an impulse to tie up the little fellow and take her away directly. What is that thing? The elf's delicate little nose wrinkled. She noticed a wine jar among the pile of gadgets that Yunsheng took out. Chapter 511. When Yunsheng left, Divine Wind couldn't bear to see her off. Instead, he ordered someone to give Yunsheng some of her things and his storage ring. The ring contained everything, including some precious elven treasures, as well as snacks, preserves, and other gadgets that Yunsheng liked when she was in the immortal Jew nation. For girls, these were all very lethal. But the little elf didn't even look at them. She was still young and didn't dare to be interested in these things. Yunsheng and Night Demon Queen looked at each other. They both had the urge to tie the little fellow up and take her away. What's that? The little elf's delicate little nose wrinkled as she noticed a wine jar among the pile of gadgets that Yunsheng had taken out. That wine jar was used to store elven fruit wine. Yunsheng didn't like drinking, but she had a special interest in the immortal Jew nation's pomegranate wine. So Divine Wind had also put 10 jars of top-quality elven fruit wine in his storage ring. The little elf's eyes lit up when she smelled the aroma of wine coming from the jar. She looked at Yunsheng with a pitiful expression. It was obvious that she wanted a drink. Yunsheng coughed and handed a cup to the little elf. The little elf took a small sip and a blissful expression appeared on her face. It's delicious. If I follow you, will I always be able to drink good things like this? The little elf's logic was simple. She had been sleeping in the sacred valley of the fire elves for so long, so she was actually quite lonely. Yunsheng had the aura of another elven queen she liked, so she naturally had a good impression of Yunsheng. Now that Yun Sheng had taken out something so delicious for her to drink, her impression of Yun Sheng skyrocketed. Sure, Yun Sheng pondered. Was the little elf an adult yet? Underage, drinking, just like that. Yun Sheng used a small cup of elven fruit wine to successfully abduct the little fellow who possessed the inheritance of the Water Fairy Queen. The little fellow had lived in the immortal Holy Grail for several thousand years. She had no recollection of why she lived here and who it was that sealed her inside. It was just that she was tired of living in the palm-sized elven Holy Grail. After waking up, she refused to live in the immortal Holy Grail no matter what. She only promised to help Yun Sheng when she needed it. She would also allow Yun Sheng to use the Spring of Life. However, the appearance of the little elf was too special. Her petite figure and elven face were obviously not suitable for walking on the continent. I can live on your bracelet. The little elf didn't want to be attached to Yun Sheng's magic scepter with the Queen of the Night Demons. She didn't like the dark aura on Night Demon. The little fellow was even more unwilling to live in the airless beast language ring. Her watery eyes circled around Yun Sheng and suddenly found an excellent place to live. Yun Sheng's bracelet. When the little elf queen saw Yun Sheng's bracelet for the first time, she felt that the bracelet was nurturing extremely powerful energy. She was still young. After leaving the immortal Ju nation, a place rich in spiritual energy, the turbid air on the continent could easily affect her constitution. However, if she could attach herself to the Shinnong medical bracelet, she would be able to absorb the mysterious energy on the bracelet. This would be very beneficial to her growth. Yun Sheng agreed to her request. The little fellow turned into a ray of blue light and entered the Shinnong medical bracelet. After the imprint of the elven hellfire appeared on the bracelet, it also had the imprint of the Water Fairy. Zhou State's Yujing City, Yun residence. Yun Sheng had been missing for 3 years. In these 3 years, Yun Ba had almost disappeared from the imperial court. In Zhou State's imperial court, several civil officials were in charge. In terms of military generals, the Marquis of Juan was the most powerful and gradually controlled the power of the Zhou State army. Sheng has been missing for 3 years, Yun Songlong lamented. Today, as usual, he brought the Yuan Sha painting back to the residence of Yun to visit his father and brother. After Yun Sheng left, Yun Songhai had considered moving back to Yun residence out of consideration for his father and elder brother's safety. After all, Yun Ba couldn't use force and had resigned from his position as a general. In his early years, he had many old enemies in the imperial court and the battlefield. The guards of Yun residence were also not as good as before. Yun Songlong was worried that someone would take advantage of this opportunity to secretly attack Yun residence. However, old General Yun refused. In this residence, there are old and disabled people. You and Xiaohua just got married and are still newlyweds. There's also some distance between here and the hunting squad. It's not convenient for you to travel back and forth. Yun Ba didn't want to be a burden to Yun Songlong. The Heavenly Hunting Squad's reputation was at its peak. It seemed that Yun Songlong's choice to become a hunting squad was the right choice. Yun Ba didn't want to obstruct Yun Songlong's development. Father, Yun Songlong still wanted to persuade him. Second young master, you don't have to worry. Seeing that the father and son were in a deadlock, Uncle Yun pulled Yun Songlong to the side. This old servant has discovered that there are actually people secretly protecting the residents. Ever since old General Yun was poisoned and couldn't use battle chi, Uncle Yun had been guarding old General Yun's residence almost every day and night. There were a few times when some assassins really came. One time, there were even several groups of people. Just as Uncle Yun was busy dealing with the assassins, a strange man in a black robe appeared in the courtyard. His movements were strange, and Uncle Yun was surprised when he killed the assassins with a skill that surprised him. After defeating the enemy, the strange person in the black robe disappeared. During the entire process, the black-robed person didn't say a word. He came and went without a trace, but his skills were ridiculously high. At first, Uncle Yin thought that the strange person in the black robe was a battle force or someone sent by Yin Songlong. However, when questioned later, both of them denied it. The black-robed person was almost nowhere to be seen during the day, not even a trace of his aura. However, when night fell, especially when there was an enemy attack, he would appear. Moreover, he always appeared at the most critical moment. After many times, Uncle Yin knew that the black-robed person didn't have any ill intentions. Uncle Yin was happy to have another expert protecting Yin residents. When Yin Songlong heard Uncle Yin's words, he revealed a puzzled expression. Yin residence was actually hiding such an expert. Uncle Yin's skills weren't ordinary, but he had entered Yin residence so many times and even he couldn't detect the other party's presence. This person must be at least a warrior or sorcerer of the same level as Battle Force. However, in Zhou's state, who would protect Yin residents for 12 hours a day? Yin Songlong couldn't figure it out. Suddenly, he thought of a hunting squad that Zhou Quan had mentioned to him. That hunting squad was under the Heaven Expedition Hunting Corps in name, but even he, the commander, had never seen him even once. In the entire hunting corps, only Yun Sheng and Zhou Quan had interacted with that hunting squad. This person had a strange name. He was called Tyrant Jean. It was said that Yun Sheng had personally recommended him into the Heaven Expedition Hunting Corps. Chapter 512. Tyrant Jean was a hunter in name, but he had never been on a mission before. Zhou Quan's contact with him was established when Yun Sheng asked him to bring him around the entire hunter citadel in Zhou State. From Zhou Quan's description, this person was exactly the same as the strange black-robed man that Uncle Yun had mentioned. Could it be that everything was arranged by Yin Sheng? Thinking of this, Yin Songlong's heart skipped a beat. His niece Yin Sheng had always been meticulous. When she left, although she did not say anything, there was no doubt that she cared about the Yun residents. She must have thought that the Yun residents needed someone to take care of it. She was the one who had secretly sent that hunter to the Yun residents. Who would have thought that a grown man like him who had led troops in war for so many years would not be as scheming as a young girl like Yin Sheng? Forget it, Uncle Yin. Don't look for that black-robed man in the future. That person should be a helper that Yin Sheng invited. Yin Sheng had left for 3 years, and that black-robed man had guarded the Yun residence for 3 years. Thinking of this, Yin Songlong's eyes could not help but sting. He really wanted to abandon the hunting corps and go to the immortal residence nation to find out if his niece was alive or dead. Even a little bit of information would be enough. Yin Songlong sighed in his heart. He did not want to stay in the Yun residence any longer, so he left with Yuan Shahua. Yin Songlong had just returned to the hunting corps. Just as Yin Songlong was feeling sad, he saw Zhou Quan running in breathlessly. Commander, good news, great news. Zhou Quan could not catch his breath and rolled his eyes. Speak slowly. Could it be that you have found the water of life? Yin Songlong rolled his eyes at Zhou Quan. The Water of Life mission had been issued for more than 3 years, but there had been no news. No, it's news from this young master. A few of my brothers went on a mission at the border, and they said that they met this young master. This young master has returned and is rushing to the Jade capital. Zhou Quan caught his breath and rattled on. This news was like a shot in the arm, causing the blood in Yin Songlong's body to surge. He laughed loudly, and tears welled up in his eyes. His niece Yun Sheng had returned. Is this news true? Sheng has returned and ordered all the brothers not to go out on missions for the time being. Everyone in the Heaven Expedition Hunting Corps needs to be reorganized. We have to welcome the Vice Commander back with a brand new look. I'll return to the Yun residence and tell Father this good news. This news was even more exciting than the Heaven Hunting Unit completing an S-rank mission. Yin Songlong laughed heartily. Not long after Yin Songlong left, the Marquis of Jiuan arrived at the Yun residence with an imperial edict. By the will of the heavens, the Emperor decrees that Yun Ba shall receive the decree. Marquis Jiuan had an arrogant look on his face. Yun Ba and Uncle Yin came out to receive the decree. Your subject, Yun Ba, receives the decree. Old General Yun has not attended court for 3 years. The army cannot be without a general for even a single day. Order Yun Ba to hand over the Commander-in-Chief seal and hand it over to the Marquis of Jun. The Marquis of Jun finished reading the imperial edict. Old General Yun, please hand over the commander's seal. The Marquis of Jun had long coveted Yun Ba's commander's seal. In the past 3 years, Yun Ba had been unable to use his duki due to the strange poison in his body. However, the Zhou State's emperor had always hoped that Yun Songlong, who had become a hunter, could return and take over the Commander-in-Chief seal. On the other hand, the Zhou State's emperor also hoped that Yun Sheng would be able to find the water of life. However, in the past 3 years, Yun Songhai had repeatedly rejected the Zhou State's emperor's invitation. He insisted on becoming a hunter and was unwilling to return to the army. This caused the Zhou State's emperor to be very unhappy. Yun Sheng had also been missing for 3 years. The last bit of patience the Zhou State's emperor had for the Yun residents had been completely worn away. It must have been hard on your majesty to endure this old subject for 3 years. Although Yun Ba had been unable to use his duki due to the poison in the past 3 years, his temper had also become much more restrained. After hearing the imperial edict, the servants of the Yun residents were filled with righteous indignation. Uncle Yun even wanted to step forward and argue, but was stopped by Yun Ba. Old General, your majesty is doing this for the good of the Yun residents. With your current condition, after handing over the Commander-in-Chief seal, you should quickly remove your armor and return to the countryside. Your majesty empathizes with you as an old subject of 3 dynasties and has already prepared a carriage to send you back to the Yun family's fief. You can set off today, the Marquis of Jiyuan said sarcastically. And son, you're trying to chase the Yun residents out of the Jade capital. Uncle Yin didn't expect that the Zhou State's emperor not only wanted to take over the old master's military authority, but also wanted to chase the Yun residents out of the Jade capital. Although Yun Ba was no longer a martial sage, he was still a prominent figure in the entire Zhou State, especially in the military world of the Jade capital. Currently, the generals guarding the fortresses at the borders of Zhou State were all personally trained by Yun Ba. There was also Wushuan Wuji School. They were all Yun Ba supporters. He had been forcefully stripped of his military authority. It was hard to guarantee that no one would speak up for him. The Zhou State's emperor and the Marquis of Jun discussed and decided to chase the Yun residents out of the Jade capital. As for whether Yun Ba would live or die after leaving the Jade capital, the Marquis of Jiyuan thought sinisterly. Old General, I advise you to leave as soon as possible. Men, send 100 soldiers to guard the Yun residents. Within 10 days, send Yun Ba and his family on their way. The Marquis of Jiyuan waved his hand, and a group of armored soldiers stepped forward. With a few clangs, they pulled out their sabers and aimed them at Yun Ba. Who dares to step forward? Uncle Yun roared angrily and blocked the soldiers. Uncle Yun's cultivation wasn't weak either. He was also furious today, and his battle aura burned like raging flames. All of you, who dares to step forward? Look carefully. The old man in front of you once bathed in blood on the battlefield for the sake of Zhou State. He joined the army at the age of 14 and still fought bravely on the battlefield at the age of 50. Among you, how many of your parents, wives, and children were protected by the old general? Yet all of you are facing him on the battlefield. Do you have any conscience? The 100 or so armored soldiers looked at each other, the sabers in their hands trembling slightly. There is no need for Uncle Yun to count Yun Ba's meritorious service. Every soldier of Zhou State was well aware of it. How many of them had joined the army and become members of Zhou State's military precisely because they had heard of Yun Ba's heroic deeds? Marquis, the captain of the armored soldiers, was in a difficult position. Marquis, I can't do it. My parents were saved by the old general back then. Our entire family's lives were saved by the old general. A armored soldier threw down his saber and knelt down. After he knelt down alone, the soldiers beside him also seemed to be affected. One by one, they knelt down in succession. Me too. I joined the army because I admired old General Yun and young General Yun. The soldiers knelt down one after another. These armored soldiers were all martial artists. They were illiterate and couldn't recognize many characters, but they were all hot-blooded men. They knew what it meant to repay kindness. Although Yun Ba's martial arts skills weren't there, he was still the martial saint of Zhou State in the eyes of these soldiers and their families. He was an irreplaceable existence in Zhou State. I love you so much that my monthly votes have been overtaken. You want this servant to torture the scum emperor? Come on. Chapter 513. You are going against military orders. This is His Majesty's decree. Are you going to defy the decree? The Marquis of Jiyuan shouted sternly. As long as Yun Ba was not eliminated, he would not be at ease. And I, son, who gave you the guts to cause trouble at the Yun estate? The thunderous roar shook the Marquis of Jiyuan's courage as Yun Songlong strode in with a few hunting soldiers. He saw the armored soldiers kneeling on the ground, the furious Uncle Yun, and the indifferent Yun Ba. Yin Songlong, what do you want? You're just a hunting soldier. Do you want to threaten an official of the imperial court? The Marquis of Jian revealed a fearful expression as he faced Yun Songlong. Even though Yun Songlong was no longer a general, his imposing manner was enough to make the Marquis of Jian tremble in fear. Moreover, he was now a martial saint. The Marquis of Jiyuan was no match for him at all. You? Do you think the Emperor of Zhou State really takes you seriously? Let me tell you, even if I were to kill you in front of everyone today, the Emperor of Zhou State would not have any objections. You're just a dog he's rearing. Yun Songlong grabbed the Marquis of Jiyuan with his bare hands, lifting him up like a chick caught by an eagle. Yun Songlong understood very well that the Emperor of Jiyuan only wanted to use the Marquis of Jiyuan to suppress the Yun estate. Yun Songlong had long seen through this, but his father Yun Ba was still stubborn. Although what had happened to the Yun estate today was infuriating, it also allowed his father to see the hypocritical face of the Emperor of Zhou State in the imperial court. The Marquis of Jian was so scared that his face drained of all color. He didn't dare resist, for he understood that Yun Songlong was speaking the truth. As long as Yun Songlong was willing to return to the army camp, the Emperor of Zhou State wouldn't care about his life at all. A martial saint was as useful as a magnificent army in a nation's war. Songlong, forget it. And I, son, take the commander's seal and get out of the Yun estate. No one can stop me when I want to leave. Similarly, if I want to stay in the Jade capital, no one can chase me away. Yun Ba's expression was as calm as an ancient well. He ordered someone to fetch the commander's seal and tossed it in front of the Marquis of Jian. The Marquis of Jian breathed a sigh of relief and hurriedly scrambled out of the residence of Yun with his men. Yun Song, dismiss all the old servants and give each of them 50 imperial silver coins. Yun Ba was disheartened. The only reason he stayed in the Jade capital wasn't because he still had any thoughts about the Zhou State's imperial capital. He only hoped that he could wait until the day his granddaughter, Yun Sheng, returned to the Yun residence. 3 years had passed, and both Yun Ba's body and heart were tormented by the poison. His current state of mind was much more peaceful than before, and the hostility he had accumulated on the battlefield in his early years had also lessened. He no longer cared about the Zhou State Commander-in-Chief seal. The only thing he cared about now was his granddaughter, Yun Sheng. Even the slightest bit of news would satisfy Yun Ba. Father, there's news about Sheng. Yun Songlong seemed to have guessed his father's intentions. What? Say it again. Who's the news? A layer of cracks appeared on Yun Ba's face. He was so agitated that he almost couldn't control himself. There's news about Sheng. She's returned to Zhou State and is currently rushing to the Jade capital. Yun Songlong's reaction wasn't much better than Yun Ba's when he heard the news. The father and son pair's nerves, which had been stretched taut for 3 years, finally relaxed. After Yun Sheng left the immortal Zhu nation, she made inquiries along the way. What made her rejoice was that the situation on the continent hadn't changed much even after 3 years had passed. It was the same in Zhou State. The only change was that the crown prince, Yi Balian, had passed away 3 years ago. Noble consort Qi, who had been greatly favored for a time, had also passed away in depression not long after. This news surprised Yunsheng. The reason for the crown prince's death was rumored to be a sudden death. The current crown prince was noble consort Wenren's youngest son, the third prince, who was only 9 years old this year. As for the Yun residence, it had been quiet for the past few years. Presumably, nothing had happened to the Yun residence under the protection of Taeheo Jin. Long before Yunsheng left for the immortal Ju nation, she had already been cautious. After leaving Tang Yuan, she secretly ordered Taeheo Jin to return to Zhou State and hide in the Yun residence. Yunsheng, who was carrying the precious treasure, officially entered Zhou State's borders. The moment Yunsheng entered Zhou State's borders, she immediately contacted the nearest Heavenly Hunting Corps through the local Hunters Union and brought the news of her return to Zhou State to the Jade Capital. Speaking of which, it was quite a coincidence that the contact person of the Heaven Expedition Hunting Corps that Yunsheng met at the border was actually the young man from the village, Lu Zi, whom she had saved 3 years ago at the border of Heaven Expedition. He was also Yun Songlong's first disciple. After Yun Songlong became a martial sage, many disciples came to learn martial arts out of admiration. However, Liuzi was his first disciple in name and was the true eldest senior brother. When Yunsheng saw Liuzi again, she almost didn't recognize him. After not seeing him for 3 years, Liuzi, who had become the eldest senior brother, had grown taller and was as sturdy as a calf. When Liuzi saw Yunsheng, he immediately recognized her and was very excited. After learning martial arts from Yun Songlong, Liuzi improved very quickly and was already able to go on missions independently this year. He even repeatedly invited Yunsheng to go to Jinko Village with him. After the disaster of the Purple Gold Mine, Jinko Village had almost become a deserted village. However, because of Yunsheng's rescue, the villagers had taken some purple gold mines when they left the mine. The villagers relied on these purple gold mines to rebuild a new village on the old site of Jinko Village. When Yunsheng arrived at the village, she saw that every house in the village was tile-roofed. The fields and livestock in the village were well taken care of. Jinko Village had now become a well-known, wealthy village. Yunsheng stayed in the village for a night under the villagers' warm persuasion. She was in a hurry and couldn't stay any longer. She could only promise Liuzi's parents that she would visit the village when she had a chance. He had already thought about it. If he joined forces with Grand Emperor City and forced the Zhao state to participate in the search for the divine weapon, his goal was to prevent the divine weapon from falling into the hands of the Dharma Temple or the Hunters Union. Yunsheng also went up and inspected several magic medicine farms near the borders of Zhou State. What made her happy and surprised was that in the 3 years that she had been away, Lin Yao, and Yao Rong had taken good care of these magic medicine farms. When Yunsheng first went to the immortal residence, she had already learned to be careful. She didn't mention to anyone that there were actually only 2 places that she was worried about. One was the Yun residence. She was worried that second uncle wouldn't be able to take care of the hunters because of the matter with the hunters, so she left her magic soldier and Tyrant Gold in the Yun residence. She only had one order for Tyrant Gold, which was to protect everyone in the Yun residence. If the Yun residence existed, Tyrant Gold would exist. If the Yun residence perished, Tyrant Gold would perish. Tyrant Gold was a life magic weapon. It didn't need to rest and could protect the people in the Yun residence for 12 hours. With it around, Yunsheng could go to the immortal residence nation without worry. Chapter 514. Another place that Yunsheng was worried about was the little CI Anton. Yunsheng had seen the means of the Medicine Emperor Pavilion. After having the Yao Rong couple, Yunsheng could be a little relieved, but the Yao Rong couple were only doctors after all. Both of them were kind-hearted people. Yunsheng was worried that the 2 of them wouldn't be able to handle it, so she arranged for Lin Yao and Zhong Yi to guard the little CI Anton. Lin Yao, who had been by Yunsheng's side for many years. Yunsheng had always trained her as the head of the little CI Anton, because Yunsheng knew that she couldn't stay in the little CI Anton all year round. There must be someone here. Lin Yao, was the most suitable one in terms of temperament and other aspects. So in establishing the magic pharmacy, Yin Sheng had been careful and always took Lin Yao with her. She even gave Lin Yao a storage ring with 100 bottles of high-grade praise of the moon god. She ordered Lin Yao to use these potions during her absence to cultivate suitable talents or sell them to prepare for the little CI in Tang's emergency. As for Zhong Yi, he was a saint-rank summoner. With him in charge of the magic pharmacy transportation, no one in the Zhou state could be his opponent. When Yun Sheng made the arrangements, she didn't expect that she would experience 3 years of amnesia. But the arrangements she made were undoubtedly the most suitable. Because of her reasonable arrangements, the Yun residents and the little CI Intong were able to survive the assassination and the crisis of medicinal herbs in those 3 years. After Yun Sheng checked the magic pharmacies in various places, she found that the operation of the magic pharmacies in various places was very good, so she was relieved. Moreover, she also found the branches of the little CI Intong in some remote towns and villages. It seemed that Lin Yao didn't let her down in these 3 years. A few days later, in the jade capital of the Zhou state, a woman walked through the city gate. "Miss, please show your clearance token." The guard of the jade capital carried out a routine inspection according to the usual practice. The woman took out a hunting clearance token. Several guards looked at it and saw the 2 words Tian Fa. Are they from the Heaven Expedition Hunting Corps? When the guards saw the words on the pass, they immediately felt deep veneration. The Sky Expedition Hunting Corps was the fastest rising hunting corps in Zhou State in the past 3 years. Their leader, Yin Sanglong, was a new martial saint from Zhou State. 2 years ago, Yin Sanglong had married Yuan Shahua, a girl from an aristocratic family in Grand Emperor City. It was said that this couple had gone through a lot of hardships, and Commander Yin Sanglong was even crippled for a period of time. However, he managed to pull through in the end and establish the Heavenly Extermination Hunting Corps. When the Hunting Corps was first established, the outside world was not optimistic about it. But who would have thought that in just a few years, the Hunting Corps would grow from an ordinary D-rank hunting corps to an A-rank hunting corps, becoming the largest hunting corps in the Zhou state that was comparable to the Wushuan Limitless School. When the 2 city gate guards saw Yun Sheng's appearance clearly, they were both shocked at the same time. So beautiful! What a beautiful woman! The female hunter in front of them was wearing an elegant white robe. She had long black hair, and her skin seemed to be transparent. Her eyelashes were thick and long, and her lips were plump and dark red. Such a beauty, even the number 1 beauty in Zhou State, Chun Lian would be overshadowed. When the 2 guards saw this, their souls almost flew away. The woman had already entered the city. After not returning to the Jade capital for 3 years, the bustling scene in Zhou State's capital was still the same as before. It was just that the scenery on both sides of the street had changed slightly. Yun Sheng was the first to return to the little CI Intong. The little CI Intong was still standing in its original place, and the medical center was still the same. It was just that the storefront had expanded slightly. Initially, it was just 1 storefront of Dr. Fan's Little Huichun Hall, but now it had expanded to 3 storefronts. In the storefront, there were a few medicine men and medicine gathering boys busily working. Yin Sheng did not recognize these people. After recovering her memory, Yin Sheng was most worried about the little CI Intong. Because of her, she offended the Medicine Emperor Pavilion. While she was still here, she didn't know if the Medicine Emperor Pavilion had done anything. When she walked into the little CI Intong, a medicine gathering boy with 2 horns hurriedly greeted her and respectfully asked, "This guest, do you want to buy magic medicines or pills?" Our little CI Intong is the only medical center in the Jade capital that sells both magic medicines and pills. When the boy saw Yun Sheng's outstanding appearance, although he didn't say a word, his temperament made people look at him. Excuse me, is Dr. Fan here?" Yun Sheng looked around and didn't see any acquaintances. Lin Yao, Dr. Fan, and Imperial Physician Yao were nowhere to be seen. "Are you looking for Dr. Fan? He and Imperial Physician Yao have gone on a long journey. Do you want to see a doctor?" Hearing the other party looking for Dr. Fan, the boy was a little puzzled. They have gone on a long journey? Yun Sheng secretly thought about it. That's right, this season was the height of autumn. It was a big day to gather medicinal herbs. The magic medicine manor that she had left behind earlier was harvesting. Dr. Fan and the others must have personally gone to gather medicinal herbs. Yunsheng wanted to ask Lin Yao, if she was here, but she heard a group of people coming in from outside the medical center. The person in the lead shouted, "Let your doctor come out. You've killed her." When the medicine-gathering boy saw this, he ran out with the other medicine men. Yunsheng retreated to the side and looked at the group of noisy people. The one in the lead was Qi Tian. "Qi Tian, you're shameless. You've come to cause trouble again and again." In the backyard, a person ran out in anger. Lin Yao, Er's face was filled with anger. Yunsheng had been missing for 3 years. Her life and death were unknown. Little Xiantong was completely managed by Dr. Fan and his wife. The Medicine Emperor Pavilion had also made some moves. However, with the help of the Heaven Extermination Hunting Corps and the Everlasting Chamber of Commerce, Little Xiantong had been operating in an orderly manner. During this period of time, because the medicinal herbs in the various magic medicine manor had matured, Dr. Fan and his wife Yao Rong had rushed to various places to collect medicinal herbs. After Cheng Sihai died, Qi Tian was also transferred back to the Jade Capital's Medicine Emperor Pavilion. He was now considered a reserve imperial physician. He was arrogant and had provoked the Medicine Emperor Pavilion many times. When he saw Lin Yao, Qi Tian's eyes shot out 2 rays of light. "Lin Yao, what are you saying? Your Medicine Emperor Pavilion has killed a patient. I was only invited by the patient's family to uphold justice." Yunsheng was not here. Fan Ji and Yao Rong were also not here. Qi Tian's lust was aroused. The Lin Yao, in front of him had become more and more beautiful in these few years. Qi Tian thought in his heart that he must bite this swan's meat. The patient was still fine when he went back yesterday. However, he's not good after one night. Who knows if someone did something in the dark? Lin Yao, went forward to check on the patient. She found that his eyes were closed and his lips were pale. She then checked his chest. His pulse had stopped beating. The patient's body was also slightly stiff. He seemed to be dead. Chapter 515. Who was the one who treated the patient yesterday? Ask him to come out. Lin Yao, muttered to herself and asked the medicine men to call out the doctor from yesterday, who knew that when she went in to ask, she would discover that the doctor had already disappeared. Lin Yao's heart shook. Looking at Qi Tian's appearance, she understood that she must have been framed by the Medicine Emperor Pavilion. What's wrong? Can't speak anymore. That doctor had clearly treated someone to death and was in the wrong. That's why he ran away. Little Xiantong had treated someone to death. Such a medical center still dares to call itself the #1 medical center in Jade Capital. Men, smash it for me. Qi Tian saw Lin Yao's pale complexion, and his heart was filled with complacency. Beside him, several martial artists rushed out like wolves and tigers and were about to smash everything. Who knew that, just as they were about to make a move, one of them suddenly burst into flames. That fire came out of nowhere, and Qi Tian got a fright when he saw it. Several of his subordinates hurriedly went forward and extinguished that martial artist's fire. The fire had already been extinguished, but that martial artist's entire body was covered with burn marks and looked very terrifying. "Qi Tian, I haven't seen you for a few years, and you still look like this. If your master Cheng Sihai sees you, I'm afraid that even if he becomes a ghost, he won't let you off." A person said lazily. When Qi Tian heard that voice, his entire body shivered. Only then did Lin Yao notice that there was actually a guest standing in the medical center. That guest, her voice, appearance, smile, and 2 small dimples at the side of her mouth. Lin Yao, who was extremely excited and almost cried out, "Master, it's Master!" She had not seen Yunsheng for 3 years and never thought that she would see Yunsheng again in her lifetime. "Yunsheng, didn't you die in the immortal Zhu nation? How is that possible?" When Qi Tian saw Yunsheng, it was as if he had seen a ghost. His first thought was to escape. Heavens, Why did this great aunt come back so quickly? Want to escape? It's not that easy. Yun Sheng did not even use her magic scepter. With a hover magic, Qi Tian and his subordinates were all fixed in place. Yun Sheng walked in front of the deceased, took out a needle, and inserted it into the patient's temple, philtrum, and abdomen. As soon as the needle was inserted, the four limbs of the deceased that had been stiff actually recovered their temperature. He suddenly sat up and vomited a few mouthfuls of black medicine. Poisonous cardamom, a kind of herb that can make people fall into a state of suspended animation. After a person or a magical beast takes it, they will enter a state of suspended animation for a short time, Yun Sheng sneered. With a single glance, one could tell that this so-called deceased was someone that Qi Tian or the Medicine Emperor Pavilion had hired. If she had not used this poisonous cardamom in the purple gold mining area to save a group of villagers, she would have been tricked by Qi Tian today. Yun Sheng, don't go too far. When Qi Tian saw that his scheme had been seen through, he was both ashamed and angry. I should be the one saying those words to you. Yao report this matter to the government. Let the government see what kind of person Zhou State's imperial physician is, Yun Sheng sneered. The despicable tricks of the Medicine Emperor Pavilion were really endless. As soon as Yun Sheng returned, Lin Yao seemed to have found her backbone. She quickly ordered several medicine men to send Qi Tian and the deceased to the government. Master, where have you been in these 3 years? We were all worried to death about you. Lin Yao pulled Yun Sheng and sighed. Not only her, Yun Sheng's disappearance was not a small blow to the entire little CI Entong and even the hunting corps. But even if there was no news of Yun Sheng, Yun Songlong still ordered people to keep Yun Sheng's position as the vice leader of the hunting corps. I'll tell you in detail another day. Yun Sheng couldn't help but smile bitterly. She couldn't say that she had lost her memory and had forgotten everyone in the past 3 years. Where's my father? After Yun Sheng rushed back to Jade Capital, the first thing she did was to return to Little Ci Entong with the immortal Holy Grail. With the holy water in the immortal Holy Grail, she would have a chance to save her father, Yun Songhai. From the time Yun Sheng was 6 years old until she was 12 years old, her father had been in a coma for 6 years. Yun Sheng had always been puzzled about Yun Songhai's coma. Her medical skills could be considered as one of the best in the continent, but she was helpless when it came to her father's coma. Especially after she saw Hu Jiuxing in the immortal Zhu country, she believed that her father must be hiding something from her. Her mother was actually one of the 13 main summoners of the Zhao state. Could it be that the culprit behind the separation of her mother and father and the separation of her family for many years was the Zhao state of Penglai? All these doubts could only be answered after Yun Songhai woke up. Uncle Yun has been taken back to the Yun residence. Old General Yun personally came to pick him up, Lin Yao told Yun Sheng. After the news of Yun Sheng's disappearance in the immortal Zhu country came from the Grand Emperor's city, Old General Yun ordered Uncle Yun to take Yun Songhai back. Yun Songxue and her son were driven out of the general's residence. After Yun Songlong and his wife got married, they also lived in the Heaven Extermination Hunting Corps. Dr. Fan and the others thought that Yun Ba was quite pitiful, so they let people take him away. In the Yun residence? After Yun Sheng heard the news, she hesitated. The grudge between her and Yun Ba hadn't disappeared yet. If she went to the Yun residence, it would mean that she had to acknowledge her ancestors. Yun Sheng gave Lin Yao a few more words and left the little Ci Entong alone. She hadn't decided whether to go to the Yun residence to pick up her father. When she passed by a street in Yujing City, she heard someone hawking steamed buns. Steamed buns, freshly baked steamed buns. A woman with a coarse cloth headscarf on her head was hawking hot steamed buns on the street. Yun Sheng had lived in the immortal Zhu country for 3 years and hadn't eaten meat for a long time. She was in a hurry and didn't eat much along the way. Being shouted like this, her stomach suddenly became hungry. Give me 5 steamed buns. Yun Sheng stopped the woman. When she saw the woman's appearance, both of them were stunned. It's you. Yun Sheng discovered that the woman selling steam buns was actually Yun Sangxue. Yun Sangxue was also stunned for a moment. When she saw Yun Sheng, she wasn't very excited and there was no more resentment in her eyes. She quickly took 5 steam buns, wrapped them in paper, and handed them to Yun Sheng. Yun Sheng wanted to give more money, but Yun Sangxue wasn't willing to accept it no matter what. Yun Sheng, these steamed buns are my apology. Yun Sangxue led Yun Sheng to a noodle stall on the street. In the noodle stall, a simple and honest middle-aged man was busy. Ying saw a lot of girls giving her tips and tickets. Thank you for your continuous support. Ying scrammed to write about the Yun family's counterattack. Seeing Yun Sangxue, that man quickly came forward and took the basket in Yun Sangxue's hand. He poured water for her to moisten her mouth. The man's appearance wasn't anything special, but he was very considerate towards Yun Sangxue. Yun Sangxue asked Yun Sheng to sit down. That's my man. After I was chased out of the Yun residence 3 years ago, I met him in a village on the outskirts. He's an honest person and treats me and you are very well. Yun Sangxue's face was full of vicissitudes. She no longer had the domineering appearance of the Yun residence's daughter. After Yun Sangxue was chased out of the Yun residence, it was too late for regrets. Chapter 516. After poisoning him, Yun Sangxue was chased out of the Yun residence. It was too late for regrets, especially when she found out that her father, Yun Ba, had been severely injured by the Dark Crown Prince, Dugu Xiu. She secretly ran back to the Yun residence. Outside, she saw Yun Ba being carried off the carriage by Uncle Yun and the others. Her father was covered in blood. His hair was gray, his expression was haggard, and his eyes were empty. Yun Sangxue knew her father's personality best. Such a proud father had been injured by a junior. He had never experienced such humiliation in his life. At that time, Yun Sangxue was sobbing uncontrollably. She felt that she had let her father down, but it was all too late. Even though Yun Sheng had saved Yun Ba's life, his injuries had never healed. In these few years, Yun Ba had been unable to use Do Qi. After Yun Sheng went missing, Yun Ba grew flowers and plants in the Yun residence, looking like he had retired early. This made Yun Sangxue feel even more guilty. Now that Yun Sheng had returned, a little hope was ignited in Yun Sangxue's heart. She hoped that Yun Sheng could cure the poison in her father's body. In the past, you and I were wrong. I apologize to you. Yun Sangxue said humbly. How is Tang Yu? Yun Sheng saw Yun Sangxue's expression and knew that she had finally thought things through. Yu is now a martial master in a martial arts club. He is much more sensible than before. Yun Sangxue's face was filled with relief when she mentioned her son. After Yun Sangxue left the Yun residence, she had to do everything herself. After Tang Yu's experience with the Bloody Hand Tycoon, he was scared out of his wits and became a fool for a long time. It was Uncle Yun who took pity on him and secretly had the residence's physician take a look at Tang Yu behind Yun Ba's back. Tang Yu was crazy for half a year before he finally recovered. Since then, he had changed his hedonistic nature and obediently became a martial master in a martial arts club in the city. Yun Sangxue was already very satisfied with this. To this pair of mother and son, the luxurious life in the Yun residence had become a dehumanizing poison. For the first time, Yun Sheng and Yun Sangxue chatted peacefully for a while. Yun Sheng seemed to have thought of something. Did you meet my mother before? How much do you know about my mother? Hearing Yun Sheng ask about her mother, Yun Sangxue was slightly taken aback. Her face revealed a troubled expression. Yun Sheng, you are a smart child. There are some things that we don't want to tell you, but we don't want you to be in danger. I vaguely know some things about your mother. She has a great relationship with the current Emperor Zhao of the Zhao state. Your father should know something. Yun Sangxue already knew about Yun Songhai's coma. Yun Sangxue's feelings towards this big brother of hers were very complicated. When Yun Songhai was young, he doted on Yun Songhai a lot. Since she was young, she had a very special feeling for him. Even Yun Sangxue's ex-husband, who passed away early, was introduced to her by Yun Songhai. However, Yin Songhai abandoned the family and her, his younger sister, for a woman. This was something that Yin Songxue had hated for many years. She hated Hu Jiuxing. She believed that Hu Jiuxing had stolen her brother's love and care for her. On the day that Yin Songhai left the Yin residence after Yin Songlong and Yin Ba fell out, Yin Songxue secretly hid outside the study. She originally wanted to hear what her brother and father were talking about, who knew that she would only hear Yin Songlong's angry voice. "Father, I respect you as my father, so I brought Jiuxing back to the residence to celebrate your birthday. I don't need those unknown women to celebrate my birthday. Even the imperial capital of Zhou State already knows her identity. The Zhou State military has already sent several people to kill her. This woman and the child in her stomach cannot be left alive." Yinba was also furious. This was the first time that the father and son had been so agitated. They began to quarrel in the study. Yin Songxue's heart thumped when she heard this. She had seen her brother's wife before. She was a woman so beautiful that all women would be jealous of her. She looked delicate and weak, but she had always silently followed her brother by his side. However, she didn't know why her father didn't like her. Yin Songxue also didn't like her because she had a foxy aura that made all men involuntarily cast sidelong glances at her. "I don't care what the military does. No one can touch my and Jiuxing's child. If the military comes knocking, don't blame me for not giving them face." Yin Songhai's voice was filled with murderous intent. Big Brother actually had such a side to him. Even though she was hiding outside, Yin Songxue could clearly feel the murderous intent in her brother's voice. Yin Songxue couldn't help but shiver. In her impression, her brother had always been amiable to her and her second brother. "Unfilial son, you are a citizen of Zhou State and a descendant of our Yun residents. But now, you've betrayed Zhou State and the Yun residents for a foreign demoness. If you dare to do this, I won't let you off even if the military doesn't do anything." Yin Ba was so angry that the father and son fell out on the spot. Yin Songhai flung open the door and strode out. He happened to run into Yin Songxue, who was eavesdropping outside. "Big Brother, are you really leaving the Yin residence?" Yin Songxue cried as she held onto Yin Songhai, refusing to let go. "Songxue, be good. Big Brother and sister-in-law are leaving. In a few months, Big Brother's child will be born. Remember to come visit us. We'll settle down in a village not far away." Yin Songhai rubbed Yin Songxue's head. "If you leave today, you're no longer a member of our Yun residence. I'll never admit that woman and the child in her womb are the flesh and blood of our Yun family. If you want to acknowledge your ancestors and enter the Yun residence, you have to kowtow 3 times and kowtow 9 times and sever all ties with that woman." Yin Ba's words strengthened Yin Songhai's resolve even more. Without another word, he directly left with Hu Jiuxing, who was already pregnant and about to give birth. The moment the two of them left the residence, they were chased by a group of people from the military. It was also at that time that Yin Songhai used dark magic to kill those people from the military. From then on, he left the Yun residence and became known as a dark magician. So this was what happened. Demoness? Foreign demoness? Could it be that Hu Jiuxing wasn't a human? After Yin Sheng heard this, not only did she not resolve her doubts, but she became even more confused. Yin Songxue only knew this much. If she wanted to know more, she would have to ask Yin Songhai, or even wait until Yin Songhai woke up. "Do you want to return to the residence to see my father? I brought back the water of life from the immortal Zhu nation. Perhaps he can wake up this time." Yin Sheng could tell that Yin Songxue had a deep sibling relationship with her father. "No, after what I did, I no longer have the face to see Big Brother." Yin Songxue's face was full of guilt. She looked at Yin Sheng in front of her and realized that after 3 years, Yin Sheng's appearance had changed quite a bit. She had become more exquisite and her features exuded an unusual aura. This feeling was very similar to Hu Jiuxing back then. Back then, I was the one who secretly told that group of people about Big Brother and sister-in-law's whereabouts. Yin Songxue had kept this secret in her heart for a long time. Chapter 517. Yun Sangxue had always hated her. After Yun Songlong left, her second brother Yun Songlong was ambushed by Grand Emperor's city at the front lines. In order to rescue Yun Songlong, Yun Ba went to the border alone. Wei brought Yun Songlong back. Yun Ba was also exhausted. At that time, the entire Yun residence was in a state of panic. Yun Sangxue, who was only 17 years old but was already widowed, felt that the sky was about to collapse. She wrote a letter to Yun Songhai, hoping that he could return to the Yun residence to preside over the situation. However, Yun Songhai said that he had already severed all ties with the Yun residence. In this life, if Yun Ba did not acknowledge his wife and child, he would not return to the Yun residence. As such, Yun Sangxue was enraged. She vented all her resentment on Hu Jiuxing and her unborn child. She secretly told the military headquarters where Yun Songhai and Hu Jiuxing were hiding in the village. Everything that happened after that was what Yun Xing knew. It was the scene of her transmigration. Hu Jiuxing was about to give birth. Yun Songhai went out to invite a midwife. How could he have known that the military headquarters and that group of mysterious people of unknown origins would come knocking on his door? When Yun Songhai rushed back, the residence they were staying in had already been burned to the ground. His wife was gone, and his child was on the verge of death. They had fallen into the hands of that group of mysterious people. Yun Songhai seemed to have gone crazy at that time. He killed hundreds of mysterious people and was on the verge of death himself. If Yun Sheng, who had transmigrated, had not cried, he would probably have been completely disheartened and committed suicide long ago. When Yun Sheng once again recalled that night when the sky was filled with flames and Yun Songhai's face of despair, she felt a wave of sourness in her heart. Yun Sangxue was even more silent. She knew that her selfishness and willfulness back then had brought great harm to Yun Songhai and Yun Sheng. My mother is not dead yet. Yun Sheng hated Yun Sangxue. But now that she knew that her mother wasn't dead, she could smile and forget the enmity between them. Sister-in-law didn't die? Regarding this matter, big brother, Yun Sangxue was first overjoyed, then very gratified. Ever since she left the residence of Yun, she had been enlightened. Now that he thought about it, he always felt that he had let down his eldest brother and his wife. Uncle Yun had already told Yun Sangxue about his eldest brother's current condition. Yun Sangxue wanted to go take a look, but she was afraid that Yun Ba would be unhappy. If Hu Jiuxing was still alive, perhaps there would be a chance for her to make up for what she had done in the past. You'd better come with me to the Yun residence. You're still a member of the Yun family after all. There are some things that must be cleared up between family members. Since her mother was not dead and Yun Ba had been brought back by her father, the estrangement between Yun Sheng and the Yun residents seemed to have been resolved all at once. Yun Sangxue also thought for a moment before deciding to return to the Yun residence with Yun Sheng. Inside the Yun residence, Yun Ba strode out as soon as he heard that Yun Sheng had arrived. "Little Miss, it's really Little Miss who has returned." Uncle Yun was so excited that he was on the verge of tears. A look of ecstasy flashed across Yun Ba's stern eyes. However, he coughed a few times and forced himself to suppress his joy. He gave a strange snort, then looked at Yun Sangxue, who was beside Yun Sheng. The speed at which he changed his expression was so fast that even a master of Peking opera would have to admit defeat. Young Miss, you've all returned. Today is truly a joyous occasion. Servants, quickly invite second young master and young madam over." Uncle Yun felt a headache coming on when he saw his master's expression. Uncle Yun muttered, "Master is really too much. Why can't he act more consistently?" This coffin-like expression made it seem as if Little Miss and Miss owed him 8 million yuan. Yin Songlong and his wife quickly rushed back. Along with them was a group of old hunters from the Heaven Extermination Hunting Corps. Everyone ignored etiquette and squeezed into the Yun residence one by one. "It's really me. Young master, you're back. Young master, we've all missed you to death." Yunxing looked at the crowd and saw many familiar faces. Her heart was moved. When Yun Songlong saw Yun Sheng, he was momentarily stunned. He walked forward and picked Yunxing up in his arms. Yin Sheng was embarrassed. Why was her second uncle still treating her like a 6-year-old child? Yuan Shahua, who was still wearing her veil, covered her mouth and giggled. She rebuked. Song Long quickly put Yin Sheng down. She's already a big girl. As her second uncle, you really can't be serious. When Yin Songlong heard this, he looked at his niece's blushing face and felt a little embarrassed. Haha, I'm just too happy. Yin Songlong laughed heartily. That year, Yin Sheng stayed in the Grand Emperor city because of him. Then, she went to the Immortal Residence. He couldn't go with her because of the Heaven Extermination Hunting Corps and had always felt guilty. Later, Yuan Bupo brought Xian Mimi back to the Grand Emperor city. As for Yun Sheng, it was said that she was left in the Immortal Residence Nation. Yin Songlong wanted to rush to the Immortal Residence and bring Yun Sheng back. However, when he rushed to the Immortal Residence Nation, he was stopped by Shuelin Hai. The fairies told Yin Songlong that if he didn't want Zhou State and the Immortal Residence to become enemies, he shouldn't barge in. Yun Sheng was protected by their Holy Wind King and was living well in the Immortal Residence. Yin Songlong had also heard of the Holy Wind King's name. He also knew from Yuan Bupo that Yun Sheng was seriously injured and could only be treated by the Immortal Residence's Water of Life. If he forcefully brought Yun Sheng back, he was afraid that it would delay her treatment. Yin Songlong was very confident in Yun Sheng. He believed that once she recovered, she would definitely return to Zhou State. That was why he left with the Heaven Extermination Hunting Corps. However, who knew that the uncle and niece would be separated for 3 whole years? For 3 years, there was no news of Yin Sheng. She was like a kite with a broken string, never to be seen again. Until today, when she suddenly appeared in the Jade Capital. Looking at his niece who had changed 18 times between childhood and womanhood, Yin Songlong couldn't help but redden. Young Master. Among the Heaven Extermination Hunting Corps, Zhou Quan jumped out. Young Master, you're really back. That's great. All right, I have a few letters left behind by Lord Biming. He wants me to personally hand them to you when you return. Yin Sheng also noticed that everyone was here. Even his own persona was standing nearby with a smile. Only Yi Biming didn't come. Yi Biming, is he all right? Yi Biming's letters were sent every month before he left and after he left. As Yun Sheng wasn't around, they were always in Zhou Quan's hands. It had been 3 years, 36 months. A total of 36 letters. Yun Sheng opened that letter. The entire letter only had the same word, wait. It was the same word, wait. Every month, there would be another word, wait. Yi Biming's words were meaningful and powerful, as if they were going to penetrate that thin piece of paper. The last letter had a total of 36 words, wait. Yi Biming had always been waiting for Yun Sheng's return. Yun Sheng recalled that 3 years ago, the last time she resonated with Yi Biming's thoughts. At that time, Yi Biming had told her to return to the Jade Capital 2 months later because he was going to participate in the mainland's elite camp's assessment. Yun Sheng had lost her memory because of the prison break in Icefall City. She had also missed the very important assessment of the mainland's elite camp. At this time, Yi Biming should already be in the mainland's elite camp. Chapter 518. Alright, Zhou Quan. 3 years ago, the Royal Magic Academy held a magic test to select the candidates to enter the Continental Magic Elite Camp. Who won in the end? Yun Sheng asked. That test? The person who won was Chun Lian. Zhou Quan recalled. The test to enter the Continental Magic Elite Camp was a feast for the Royal Magic Academy, so Zhou Quan still had some recollection of it. As expected, it was Chun Lian. Oh, that's right. Other than Chun Lian, there were 2 other people. Speaking of which, those 2 people were accepted as special exceptions. They were your good friends from the Royal Magic Academy, Gufeng and Abandon. Zhou Quan had almost forgotten about these 2 people. The recruitment of the Continental Magic Elite Camp was held once every 3 years. In each country, there were not many people who could be selected. Because the quality of the Royal Magic Academy was average in the past 3 years, there was almost no one who could be selected. However, during the selection 3 years ago, 3 people were selected at once. Chun-Lian was selected as a guaranteed student. Part of the reason was because of her identity as the former crown princess and her relationship with Chun-Ge. But the other two people, including Goofing and Abandon, were selected by accident. The examiner of the Continental Magic Elite Camp accidentally saw Goofing's heavenly sphere of light and Abandon's unique cultivation technique that used poison to raise the Dharma spirit. Thus, he made an exception and recruited the two of them. The three of them were gone for 3 years. In these 3 years, there was no news at all. Yunsheng nodded, and she couldn't help but feel a sense of loss in her heart. In these 3 years, her companions had probably improved a lot. She could not fall behind. Seeing the sadness in Yunsheng's eyes, Yun Songlong seemed to have guessed her thoughts. Sheng, you don't have to feel regret. You have already returned. The triennial selection of the Continental Magic Elite Camp is about to begin. This time, you will definitely be selected. Second uncle, these are not urgent. I just want to treat Father's illness. I have found the water of life. I will go in and see Father first. Yunsheng temporarily put aside her worries. She hadn't fallen behind in the past 3 years, but right now, she was most concerned about how to cure her father. The spring of life in the immortal Holy Grail was a special spring that was purer and more advanced than the water of life. Yunsheng took out a portion of the water from the Holy Grail and fed it to Yun Songhai. The spring of life was indeed the most miraculous panacea in the world. As soon as she drank it, Yunsheng could feel a vigorous life force moving quickly around Yun Songhai's skirt. The strange medicinal power that had suppressed Yun Songhai for many years inside his body was rapidly fading away. Yun Songhai's face showed a hint of pain and struggle. He curled up like a prawn. Big brother, what's wrong with him? Yun Songshua watched from the side and was extremely nervous. When she saw everyone at the Yun residence, she was embarrassed. Fortunately, her second brother took the initiative to invite her in. Yin Ba only glanced at her from the corner of his eye and didn't have any intention of chasing her away. She cowered and followed in. That's because the spring of life is purifying the poison. The whole process will take about 1 night. Yu Sheng had used the water of life before and knew that the process wasn't pleasant. Yin Songhai would have a hard time tonight. The poison in his body would be devoured by the spring of life and new blood would be produced. If he couldn't endure this process, his body would collapse and he would die. If someone from the Dharma Temple was there to assist him with light magic, the pain would be greatly reduced. But right now, Xiao Wenchu wasn't in the Dharma Temple. Yin Songhai could only rely on himself to endure this. Yin Sheng took out 2 more bottles of water of life. She gave one to Yin Ba and the other to Yuan Shahua. After she and Mimi obtained the bottle of water of life, she used it all on her face and wasn't willing to give it to Yuan Shahua. Yuan Shahua's face had yet to recover, but she was already very satisfied to be able to leave Grand Empress City and be with Yun Songlong. As for Yun Ba, the poison in his body also needed to be purified by the water of life. This is the water of life? No, Shenger, this is too precious. Yuan Shahua hurriedly refused. She also knew that in order to find the water of life, Yun Sheng had almost died in the immortal residence. Such a precious item would be very beneficial to Yun Sheng in the future. Yun Sheng thought to herself. She currently possessed one of the divine artifacts of the universe, the immortal Holy Grail. The Holy Grail would produce an endless stream of spring of life. To her, even 100 bottles of spring of life would be nothing, let alone a single bottle. But she wouldn't tell anyone that she now had the immortal Holy Grail. Counting the demon's summoning hand and the immortal Holy Grail, Yun Sheng now had 2 8 divine tools in her hands. If any of these 2 divine tools were spread to the continent, it would cause a huge uproar. Yun Sheng's wings were still not fully grown. The Zhao State and the Medicine Emperor Pavilion were her greatest enemies. Since Sheng has asked, just accept it, Yun Songlong said and glanced at his father, Yun Ba. These words were also directed at him. Yun Ba snorted and brazenly took the bottle, muttering, "This old man won't thank you. You're my granddaughter to begin with." After so many years, all you've given this old man is a bottle of tasteless water. When the crowd heard this, they all had a look of disdain. Old General Yun, can you be a little more dishonest? Your old face is smiling more brightly than a chrysanthemum. You've already seriously betrayed yourself. Yun Sheng didn't refuse old General Yun calling her granddaughter. She would wait for her father to wake up first. Yun Songhai still needed one more night to wake up. That night, Yun Sheng rushed back to Wushuan Limitless School's medicine hall. She didn't forget that she was an elder of the martial arts hall. For the past 3 years, she hadn't been in the medicine hall. Speaking of which, she had let down Zhang Li. When Zhang Li found out that Yun Sheng had returned, he was also overjoyed. Little girl, you're finally back. That brat Biming was right. You're so lucky that even the king of hell doesn't dare to take you. Zhang Li laughed. Yun Sheng asked about the martial arts hall. Zhang Li had been relaxed recently. In order to nurture Cheng Bai and Bu Jiuxiao, he had thrown all the matters of the martial arts hall to the two of them. However, there was still a look of worry on his face. What's there to worry about, Deputy Director Zhan? Yun Sheng joked. Cheng Bai and Bu Jiuxiao are both your disciples. You don't know, but in 2 years, the 8 Wastelands Divine Artifact mission will begin. Biming is still in the elite camp of the continent, and there's no news of him. Speaking of Yi Biming, Zhang Li still had some resentment. This disciple of his was the typical type of person who didn't want his master when he had a woman. He had been in the elite camp of the continent for 3 years and hadn't brought a single word back to the martial arts hall. However, he remembered that Yu Yu had written a letter to Yun Sheng. Yun Sheng found it funny when she heard Zhang Li's resentful tone. Chapter 519. Yun Sheng understood that Yi Biming never did things sloppily, which could be seen from the word wait in the letter he wrote to her. He should be waiting for her in the mainland's elite camp. In fact, after experiencing the experience of coming to the immortal Jew country, Yun Sheng was also very curious about what the truly brilliant magic on the mainland, the dark magic of the mainland's elite camp, looked like. She would abide by the agreement with Yi Biming 3 years ago. 2 years later, everything is still unknown, but Curator Zhan, thank you for helping me guard the little CI Intong during my absence. Yun Sheng had already learned from Lin Yaoer. Every harvest season in the little CI Intong, the martial arts school would send a martial artist in the school to help collect and escort the medicinal herbs. It was also thanks to the strong cooperation of the battle strength. In the 3 years she was away, the little CI Intong was sheltered by the Wushuan Limitless School. It's all a small matter. You helped the martial artists to wash their marrow and bones earlier, which can be regarded as a great help to me. The battle strength was also a grateful person. In the current Wushuan Limitless School, because of Yun Sheng's use of beast blood to wash their marrow and bones, the cultivation of the martial artists had more than doubled. Wushuan Limitless School also jumped from the top 5 martial arts schools in the mainland to the top martial arts school in the mainland, and later Qin's Big Dipper Martial Arts School was on par with each other. Deputy Curator Zhan, I came back from the immortal residence this time, and also brought back some elven elixirs. I think it's very good for improving and purifying people's physique. The elixirs Yun Sheng mentioned were actually the beast blood pills that had been processed with the Spring of Life. The Spring of Life had a very good effect on magicians and martial artists. Yun Sheng had also experimented with it. She added the Spring of Life to several kinds of elixirs and magic potions that she had refined earlier. Those elixirs and magic potions had undergone a qualitative leap. Take the Praise of the Moon God as an example. After adding the Spring of Life and refining it with karmic fire, the Praise of the Moon God could break through to the sacred level in one go. This kind of potion was even more amazing than the high-grade potion that could allow one to advance to a mage in an instant. It could allow any mage below the rank of Sky Mage to break through to the next realm. Such a miracle of potion would be inconceivable anywhere in the continent. Yun Sheng's excuse that she had obtained the elixir from the elves of the immortal residence country was just to avoid suspicion. Yun Sheng began to refine new beast blood pills that night. On the second day, Yin Sheng had already refined 50 beast blood pills that had been refined from the spring of life. She handed them over to Zhang Li and had him hand them over to the martial artists of the inner hall. With the effect of the new beast blood pill, Yin Sheng believed that 2 years later, even if Yi Baiming did not return to the dojo would still be able to complete the search for the artifact with the help of the strengthened martial artists. After Yun Sheng finished refining this batch of elixirs, she immediately returned to the Yun residence. Her heart burned as if it was on fire. She wanted to know what happened to her father last night. The courtyard that Yun Songhai lived in was the courtyard that he had lived in the early years of the Yun residence. The moment Yun Sheng entered, she saw second Uncle Yun Songlong sitting by the bed with a bowl of medicine in his hand. Yun Songhai was still lying on the bed, but he had already opened his eyes. The father and daughter were both in disbelief when they met again after 6 years. Especially Yun Songhai. For a moment, it was hard for him to connect this slender and elegant young lady with the thin and small Yun Sheng from back then. Yin Songlong was still the quick-witted one and reminded him, "Big brother, that's Sheng father." Yin Sheng's nose twitched as she rushed over. How long had it been since she had used this word? In her previous life, her parents had passed away early. In this life, she had finally found a father who loved her dearly, but her father had been in a coma for 3 years. "You're Shang-o." Yin Songhai had just woken up. The moment he woke up, he saw Yin Songlong. When he looked around, he realized that he had actually returned to the Yun residence. He did not know how long he had been in a coma. He had always been aware of the poison in his body. The moment before he lost consciousness, he had heard Yun Sheng's cries. He had been very worried about his young daughter and was extremely reluctant to part with her. However, the poison had already consumed his consciousness. He had thought that they had already parted forever at that time. He had never expected that the father and daughter would meet again one day. Yin Songlong had already roughly told Yin Songhai what had happened in the past few years. When Yin Songhai heard this, his face was filled with disbelief. He had not expected that he was actually still alive and that the person who had been protecting him all this time and even risking her own life to find a way to save him was actually Yin Sheng. She was still a child. 6 years. In these 6 years, she had gone from a lonely and helpless child to where she was today. Even an adult like Yin Songhai could not imagine the difficulties and hardships she had gone through. "Big brother, you have raised a very outstanding daughter. Sheng is fully deserving of being a member of the Yun family." Yin Songlong saw that his big brother had finally recovered and was overjoyed. He could not help but think of his niece's perseverance and forbearance all these years. "Sheng silly child." Yin Songhai had just woken up not long ago. Although he had the miraculous purifying effect of the spring of life, his body had been completely exhausted because of the purifying effect of the spring of life. He could not exert any strength at all. Seeing Yun Sheng lying on his body and sobbing softly, Yin Songhai's eyes filled with hot tears for a moment. After so many years, the father and daughter met again for the first time, but they spent it in tears. Even a grown man like Yin Songlong was at the side, constantly wiping away his tears. Everyone in the room is crying and wailing. What kind of scene is this? How embarrassing. Humph, this old man can't be bothered to speak with you people. This old man will be in seclusion for the next few days. Don't disturb me if there's nothing important. Yin Ba had also rushed over when he heard the news. Seeing Yin Songhai awake, Yin Ba could not help but be moved. He glanced at Yin Songhai, and the expression on his face clearly loosened. He turned his head, and then quickly walked out. Uncle Yin sneaked in and pouted toward the outside. Old master is wiping away his tears outside. He still insists that sand got into his eyes. Among all of Yin Ba's children, he doted on Yin Songxue the most and was the strictest towards his eldest son, Yin Songhai. When Yin Songhai was born, Yin Ba was not yet a general. He led a group of soldiers and charged and broke through enemy lines on the battlefield. It was not until Yin Songhai was 1.5 years old that he returned to the Yun residence. Yin Ba thought that he had to raise his daughter well. so he was obedient to his youngest daughter, Yun Songshua. However, he had to raise his son poorly. Not only that, he had to raise him strictly. Before Yun Songhai was 6 or 7 years old, Yunba had always forced him to practice martial arts. If he disobeyed, he would be punished by kneeling in the ancestral hall. However, Yun Songhai did not like magic and insisted on entering the Imperial Magic Academy behind Yunba's back. He even became a hunter later on. This caused a barrier between father and son. However, this did not mean that Yunba did not dote on his son. Chapter 520. Master waited outside the house for the entire night. No matter how hard we tried to persuade him, he wouldn't leave. Uncle Yun knew that the father and son were stubborn. If there was no one to mediate between them, this stubborn knot would never be untied. After Yunba obtained the water of the spring of life, he followed Yun Sheng's instructions and should have used it as soon as possible. However, he insisted that he had to wait until Yun Songhai woke up before going into closed-door training. After Yunba left, Yun Songhai sighed. Father has aged a lot. Yun Songhai had been in a coma for more than 6 years. Although he couldn't speak or move when he was in a coma, he could still vaguely remember that Yunba would often visit him when he was in a coma. The old man was long-winded and would talk about things that happened when he was still a child. Yun Songhai's hatred for his father gradually dissipated. Yun Songlong saw that Yunba and Yun Sheng seemed to have a lot to talk about. He stood up and said, "You two haven't seen each other for a long time. You must have a lot to talk about. I'll inform Zhang Li and the others that Big Brother has woken up." Yun Sheng also had the same intention. She wanted to ask about Hu Jiusheng. That day in the immortal June nation's Icefall City, the time she had spent with her mother was too short. She didn't even have time to figure out why Hu Jiusheng was a citizen of the Zhao state. She clearly remembered that Uncle Yun had said earlier that Hu Jiusheng had killed an important person of the Zhao state. Logically speaking, the Zhao state would definitely kill her. However, she was now the 13th Archbishop of the Zhao state. "You really saw your mother?" Yun Songhai was extremely excited. He grabbed Yun Sheng with a face full of disbelief. Actually, it wasn't just Yun Songlong. Even now, Yun Sheng still couldn't believe it when she recalled seeing Hu Jiusheng that day. Not to mention anything else, Hu Jiusheng did not seem to know her at all. The name Yun Sheng was given to her by Hu Jiusheng and Yun Songhai when she was pregnant. If it was a son, he would be called Yun Ge. If it was a daughter, she would be called Yun Sheng. However, when Hu Jiusheng heard her name, she did not react at all. Looking at her appearance, it was clear that she had already lost her memories. Jiusheng, she must be from the Zhao state. Yun Songhai was excited, especially when he heard that Yun Sheng had almost died in the Immortal Keeper Nation because of Hu Jiusheng's magic. He couldn't hold back anymore. "Father, what kind of person is Mother? Why would old General Yun call her an outsider? And why would the Zhou state's military join forces with the Zhao state to murder my mother?" Yun Sheng thought that the Zhou state and the Zhao state shouldn't have any direct relationship. Yun Songhai was silent. He scrutinized his daughter. After not seeing her for a few years, Yun Sheng had grown from a small child that he could carry with one hand to a slender and elegant woman. Her appearance was 50 to 60% similar to his wife's. Now that he looked at her, perhaps because she had been influenced by the hellfire and the spring of life, her features were even more exquisite. Compared to his wife, Hu Jiusheng, Yun Sheng was like a ball of fire when she was angry. However, when she smiled, she was like a sweet spring. "Sheng, I heard that you're already engaged to Zhou State's Prince Biming. Is that right?" Yun Songhai felt very guilty. He was really an incompetent father. When he was in Banana Leaf Village, he was always drunk and depressed because of the poison. He neglected his daughter's growth. After he left Banana Leaf Village, he fell into a coma and slept for 6 years. If it were any other child, they wouldn't have been able to hold on. However, Sheng managed to walk through it with her young and tender shoulders. Even his daughter's marriage was confirmed without him knowing anything. Although he already knew that the current Prince Biming of Zhou State was the blind boy who had been with her father and daughter for a while in Banana Leaf Village. In his impression, he was a taciturn but exceptionally handsome young man. He was quite good to Sheng. Unfortunately, he was born in the royal family. Yin Sheng didn't understand why her father suddenly asked about this. Thinking of Yi Baiming, Yin Sheng's heart softened. Father, actually, Yin Sheng actually wanted to say that she didn't know that she and Yi Baiming didn't have the relationship that her father thought. The marriage contract with Yi Baiming was actually just a layer of protection. However, when the words were about to come out of her mouth, Yin Sheng felt that she couldn't say it. Could it be that she and Yi Baiming were really just bound by a marriage contract? This made Yin Sheng a little confused. Yin Songhai saw that his daughter was hemming and hawing with some uncertainty in her eyes. He frowned slightly. He could see that Yin Sheng probably had some feelings for that young man. Sheng, you have to promise me that you can't marry Yi Baiming. You have to break off the engagement with him. Yin Songhai's serious tone stunned Yin Sheng at first. She didn't understand why her father suddenly said that. Father, it wasn't that Yin Sheng hadn't thought of breaking off the engagement. After all, it was because of the secret later Qin crown prince that she had no choice but to get engaged to Yi Baiming. She had originally thought that when Yi Baiming had a true sweetheart, she would automatically break off the engagement. However, her father suddenly spoke against her marriage. For a moment, she felt an indescribable sense of discomfort. Sheng, I'm doing this for your own good. If it were an ordinary family, they might be able to accept your family background. However, if you're a member of the royal family, once your family background is revealed, I'm afraid that the only thing that awaits you is death. Yin Songhai looked at Yin Sheng's expression. He sighed inwardly. A grown girl couldn't be kept at home. He was afraid that his daughter had already secretly developed feelings for Lord Baiming. Yin Songhai was an experienced person. He knew that Yin Sheng was very smart. Compared to ordinary children, she could be said to be precocious. However, she seemed to be very indifferent to the feelings between men and women. On the mainland, there were 12 females and 14 males. They had indeed reached the age to talk about marriage. After getting engaged in another 2 or 3 years, it would be time for him to come and ask for her hand in marriage. Yin Songhai didn't want to break up Yin Sheng and Lord Baiming at that time. Father, is there anything special about my family background? Yin Sheng heard something unusual from her father's tone. Since things have come to this point, I might as well tell you frankly. Your mother, Hu Jiuxing, is not an ordinary person. She's a Bakra Orcs, a descendant of Celestial Fox. Yin Songhai sighed and told Yin Sheng Hu Jiuxing's biggest secret. Hu Jiuxing was not a human. To be exact, she had the body of a demonic beast. In the easternmost part of the mainland, there was a boundless Duqian blood beast world. The Duqian blood beast clouds that had wreaked havoc all over the mainland over the years had originated from there. However, on the other side of the blood beast world, there were rumors that the 8 great experts of the boundless mainland had jointly expelled the demonic beasts from the mainland. Many years ago, the demonic beasts reigned supreme on the mainland, and the human race could only struggle at death's door under the attacks of the demonic beasts. However, at some point in time, the 8 most powerful warriors, magicians, and summoners of the boundless mainland had found the 8 Barons' divine weapon. They used the 8 Barons' divine weapon to expel the demonic beasts from the boundless mainland. The demonic beasts were either killed or expelled, including the strongest branches of the demonic beast tribes known as Bakra Orcs. Chapter 521. The descendants of the Celestial Fox were one of the main branches of the Bakra Orcs. The leaders of the Bakra Orcs were all at the Beast King level. Even though the magical beasts were extremely powerful, the Bakra Orcs had been in internal strife for many years. Furthermore, humans were cunning and secretly sowed discord. Finally, the Bakra Orcs broke apart. The 8 masters killed the leaders of the major Bakra clans and wantonly burned and massacred the Bakra Orcs. Countless magical beasts were killed. Their blood did not dry up and the smell of blood filled the air. Finally, the Duqian blood beast world was formed. The magical beasts that were lucky enough to survive escaped into the Dutian blood beast world. From then on, there were no more magical beasts of the 8 barren mythical beast level on the mainland. The 8 masters also worked together to set up an extremely powerful restriction in the Dutian blood beast world to prevent the magical beasts of the Bakra orcs from entering. But there was a limit to their power. Since then, tens of thousands of years had passed. As time passed, the seal of the Dutian blood beast world gradually loosened. The magical beasts that were killed many years ago in the blood beast world did not dissipate. Their evil spirits soared to the sky and formed clouds of evil spirits. These evil spirits passed through the cracks in the seal and floated into the mainland. The blood beast cloud devoured the local residents and livestock. After accumulating enough energy, it gave birth to the powerful blood beast cloud. What does this have to do with Mother? According to Mother's age, it's impossible for her to have anything to do with the beast clan of the 8 wastelands back then. Yinsheng was speechless when she heard this. She did not expect that Hu Jiuxing was actually a descendant of the heavenly fox. Why did such a thing sound so fantastical? All right, she had indeed transmigrated to a fantastical mainland. Your mother was actually born from a blood beast cloud. Yin Songhai told Yin Sheng about his encounter with Hu Jiuxing. Ever since Hu Jiuxing was born, she didn't know where she came from. She was picked up and raised by a couple living at the border of Zhou State. When she was 3 years old, she realized that her understanding of magic was particularly outstanding, so she was sent to the local temple. She was extremely talented and could learn any magic at once. However, she did not like the Temple of Magic, or rather, she subconsciously hated the Temple of Magic. After that, Hu Jiuxing's talent as a summoner was inadvertently revealed. She had been recommended to the Zhao state by the Temple of Dharma, and it was there that she had learned most of her knowledge about summoners. If that's the case, Mother, you've lived in both the Dharma Temple and the Zhao state. Why did she leave the Zhao state? Most of the summoners, especially the powerful ones, were more or less related to the Zhao state, because the celestial fox blood in your mother's body had awakened. At that time, the Dutian blood beast cloud was very active. As a member of the Zhao state, Mother was sent to capture the blood beast cloud. However, the blood beast cloud that time gave birth to a baby. Yin Songhai paused as he spoke. He seemed to have also imagined the scene at that time. The blood beast cloud was a very special existence. It could give birth to magical beasts, but at the same time, it could also give birth to magical beasts in human form. Those magical beasts in human form were more powerful and more valuable than normal magical beasts. This was because magical beasts in human form were magical beasts that were at least at the level of holy beasts. Once these magical beasts grew up and mixed into the human race, they would be a greater threat. Could it be the Zhao state wouldn't even let go of a baby? Yun Sheng recalled the night she transmigrated to this world. If she wasn't wrong, that group of people must have been from the Zhao state. They threw the baby to his death in front of your mother. It was also that action that caused Hu Jiuxing to go into beast blood frenzy. Father, are you talking about Mother? Yin Sheng had seen Hu Jiuxing's power. As a magical beast, Hu Jiuxing could also go into beast blood frenzy. After beast blood frenzy, Hu Jiuxing's power, after that incident, your mother left the Zhao state. After she went into beast blood frenzy, she revealed her immature, celestial fox beast form. She killed more than 20 Zhao state masters, including a cardinal, and then escaped. That incident didn't really spread on the mainland. After all, for the Zhao state, it was a slap to the Zhao state's face that an ordinary scepter summoner had such terrifying power. Moreover, it was found that she was the descendant of the mythical beast of the Octoterra. They started to put Hu Jiuxing on the wanted list all over the mainland. The most hateful thing was that they didn't even let go of Hu Jiuxing's adoptive parents. The Zhao state couldn't find Hu Jiuxing's whereabouts, so they captured her adoptive parents and tortured them to death. By the time Hu Jiuxing rushed back to the Zhao state, her adoptive parents were already dead. Even though she was a magical beast in human form born from the beast blood cloud, Hu Jiuxing was no different from an ordinary person, whether in terms of appearance or state of mind. Her adoptive parents doted on her, and the Zhao state's actions had undoubtedly forced her into a desperate situation. In a rage, Hu Jiuxing slaughtered 10 summoning centers in a row. Since then, she had concealed her identity and appeared in all the major arenas as a freelance hunter. It was at that time that Yin Songhai also left the Royal Magic Academy and began his journey to learn a higher level of magic. The two youngsters had also chosen to use the arena as a way of training. In the end, the two met in the Heaven's Wings arena. Perhaps it was fate, but the two of them met in a fight. When Yin Songhai saw Hu Jiuxing, he fell in love with her at first sight. He didn't hesitate to pretend that he was no match for her and lost. After the battle, he used all sorts of excuses to pester Hu Jiuxing. It was said that good women were afraid of being pestered. Although Hu Jiuxing didn't have a good impression of humans, Yin Songhai's pestering skills were real. He followed Hu Jiuxing all the way, and when she left the Heaven's Wings arena, he also left. The two were like cats and mice, chasing and hiding all over the continent. Yin Sheng couldn't help but find it funny when she heard this. In her eyes, her father Yin Songhai had always been a serious and inarticulate person. Who would have thought that in order to pursue her mother, Hu Jiuxing, he would actually do such a crazy thing? Thinking of her mother, Hu Jiuxing, Yin Sheng couldn't help but be dazed. If she were a man, she would definitely be infatuated with such a woman. After leaving the Heaven's Wings arena, Hu Jiuxing was chased by the Zhao state and was seriously injured. Yin Songhai didn't care about offending the Zhao state and resolutely took action. He saved Hu Jiuxing and later learned of Hu Jiuxing's identity. However, he didn't distance himself from Hu Jiuxing because of this. On the contrary, he still cared for her. After Hu Jiuxing recovered from her injuries, she finally accepted Yin Songhai. After that, your mother had you. Coincidentally, it was your grandfather's birthday, so I brought her back to Yujing City. My original intention was to confirm your mother's status, but who knew? Yin Songhai couldn't continue. He hadn't expected that the Emperor of the Zhou state had already learned of Hu Jiuxing's identity from the Zhao state. The Emperor of the Zhou state, who had always been mercenary, didn't hesitate to choose the Zhao state and issue the order to kill Hu Jiuxing. Chapter 522. After the Emperor of Zhou state found out about Hu Jiuxing's identity, he issued a secret order to kill Hu Jiuxing. If Yin Songhai or the Yun residents tried to stop him, he would kill them all. Yiqing Tian is really worse than a dog. Our Yin residence has done so much for him. Yin Sheng couldn't help but be enraged when she heard this. The Emperor of Zhou state has always been a cold-hearted person. Moreover, his ancestor was one of the 8 strongest people who chased the 8 Baron Divine Beast out of the mainland. He is very wary of the 8 Baron Divine Beast. It's understandable that he can't tolerate your mother. Sheng you should know why I asked you to cancel your engagement with Lord Biming, right? Yin Songhai didn't wish for the grudges of the previous generation to affect his daughter's future happiness. However, Yi Biming had the blood of Zhou State's royal family flowing in his veins. If the fact that Yun Sheng also had the blood of the 8 Baron Divine Beast was exposed one day, he was worried that Yun Sheng and Yi Biming would turn against each other. Yun Sheng was silent. She finally understood why her father wanted her to do this. Father, I understand. You don't have to worry too much. Sheng doesn't like Lord Biming. Yun Sheng said softly. That's good. My Sheng has become so beautiful. There will definitely be many people wooing you in the future. Actually, you are different from your mother. You didn't inherit your mother's talent of the 8 Baron Divine Beast. You don't have to worry too much. Yin Songhai laughed and stroked his daughter's hair. The 8 Baron Mythical Beast was the supreme existence among the magical beasts. Their patriarch was the Beast King among the Beast Kings. Therefore, most of the human-shaped babies born from the blood clouds of the 8 Baron Mythical Beast were extremely talented as summoners. Hu Jiuxing was a good example. Father, actually, Sheng is hiding something from you. Yin Sheng suddenly knelt on the ground. She took out her beast language ring and handed it to Yin Songhai. Sheng is already a summoner, and because of a coincidence, I obtained two things. Yun Sheng took out the summoned magical beast and the immortal holy grail from the beast speech ring. This is a magic tool that can summon holy beasts and above. It's called the Summoning Demon Hand. This cup is the holy grail that can continuously obtain the spring of life. Yin Sheng did not want to hide this from her father. Yin Songhai was shocked. 8 Desolates divine artifact. It was actually an 8 Desolates divine artifact. He didn't expect that 2 of the 8 Wastelands divine weapons, which had been rumored on the continent for a long time, were actually in Yun Sheng's hands. After Yun Songhai recovered from his shock, he felt a wave of panic. 8 Desolates divine artifact was a real divine artifact. On the continent, only the most powerful people could have one. But 2 of these things had fallen into the hands of his daughter. And his daughter was only 12 years old now. Was this really a lucky thing? Yin Songhai was speechless for a moment. He took a deep breath. Sheng put away these 2 divine artifacts. That ring, Sai, I should have thought of it. How could a magic tool refined by your mother be ordinary? You really did inherit her talent as a summoner. After Yin Songhai recovered from his shock, his heart calmed down a lot. How many more secrets was his daughter hiding? As a father, even he couldn't take it anymore. Father, when I was in the immortal Jew country, my mother taught me to carve this zither. But she didn't seem to remember me at all. When I said that I was from the Zhou state, she didn't react. I think the Zhao state must have done something. Yin Sheng took out the 1,000-year-old ice zither. Several strings on the zither attracted Yun Songhai's attention. A faint silver color, like the moonlight. That was the color of his wife, Hu Jiuxing's hair. He couldn't be mistaken. This also made Yun Songhai more certain that Yun Sheng saw his wife, Hu Jiuxing. Sheng, father will investigate your mother's matter. I hope you won't interfere in this matter. After Yun Songhai woke up, the first thing he wanted to do was to find his wife, Hu Jiuxing. You don't need to persuade father anymore. Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. I won't have a direct conflict with the Zhao state. I've already died once, so I won't be as impulsive as I was before. I heard from your second uncle that you want to participate in the Imperial Magic Academy's mainland elite magic camp. Just go and participate. The mainland elite magic camp was a place where one could learn the highest level of magic, especially since Yun Sheng had the dark magic soul in her body. Yin Songhai frankly told Yun Sheng that he had learned dark magic before. At that time, he had met an instructor from the mainland elite magic camp by chance in the arena. The instructor had taught him by chance. Dark magic is actually not as evil as the outside world says. No matter if it is magic or battle techniques, there is no absolute good or bad. If the person using it has a pure heart, then even if it is dark magic, it can still be used for righteous purposes. However, if the person using it is an evil person, then it can be used. But if the person is evil, then even light magic can be used for evil purposes. Right now, you won't be able to learn anything from normal magic academies. You can't go to the temple, so all that's left is the mainland elite magic camp. Promise me that unless you break through to become a sky magician, you won't try to find your mother. After Yun Songhai met his wife, Hu Jiuxing, his understanding of magic beasts had changed. Although Hu Jiuxing was the descendant of the nine-tailed fox, she was pure. Before her adoptive parents were killed, she was an open-minded person who loved to laugh. She even used the medical skills she learned from the temple to help warriors and magicians she met. Father, Sheng promises you that I won't cause trouble for the Zhao state for the next few years. I'm still not their match. Yin Sheng found it difficult to deal with just her mother, Hu Jiuxing. Needless to say, the Zhao state had 13 main summoners and countless powerful summoners. Yin Sheng was indeed planning to take part in the Imperial Magic Academy's examination after Yin Songhai and Yun Ba recovered. In the next few days, the father and daughter reunited and drank a lot. Yuan Shahua's face was also healed by Yun Sheng with the spring of life. When Yun Sheng was treating Yuan Shahua, she asked about Yuan Bupo. Yuan Shahua glanced at Yun Sheng with a strange look in her eyes. As Yuan Bupo's sister, Yuan Shahua had long seen that Yuan Bupo had special feelings for Yunsheng. In the past, Yuan Shahua had only seen this as a young man's infatuation. But after Yunsheng was seriously injured and almost died in the Immortal Keeper Nation, Yuan Bupo's feelings changed. Bupo didn't want to talk about this at first, but I feel that I should tell you. During the 3 years you were in the Immortal Keeper Nation, Bupo blamed himself for 3 whole years. In the first year, he built a small house outside the snowy forest sea, saying that he was waiting for you to come out. Later on, my father couldn't stand it any longer, and personally went to his door to give that foolish boy a beating. Yuan Shahua sighed emotionally when she recalled that time. Chapter 523. Yuan Bupo was the most promising candidate to inherit the position of Grand Emperor City Lord. Yuan Bupo was dispirited and listless. As his elder sister, she was exasperated at his failure to live up to expectations. After Yuan Bupo's father beat him up, he scolded him fiercely. With your appearance, even if the Yun family's girl walked out of the immortal residence alive, she would never fancy you. After Yuan Bupo was scolded, he came to his senses. Bupo has been in seclusion for 2 years and has not come out until today. Yuan Shahua was also very fond of Yunsheng. She hoped that Yunsheng could become her sister-in-law, but she also admitted that the current Yunsheng was not even worthy of her silly younger brother. As for Xian Mimi, her face was healed after she received the water of life. Her experience in the immortal residence nation made her understand that there was always someone better than her. In the past 2 years, she did not cause any trouble and cultivated obediently in Grand Emperor City. Since that is the case, I am relieved. In a few days, Zhou State's Royal Magic Academy's examination for the mainland's elite magic camp will begin. I should also prepare. Yunsheng smiled. She did not pay much attention to the hint in Yuan Shahua's words. After her father told her that she had the bloodline of the 8 Wastelands divine beast, she understood that this bloodline brought her endless opportunities, but also great challenges. If she wanted to find her mother and find out the reason for her mother's amnesia, she had to continuously improve her strength, whether it was the strength of a summoner or a sorcerer. Just as Yunsheng was quietly waiting for the examination day of the mainland's elite magic camp, an unexpected event broke the peace of the Yun residence, the Jade capital, and the entire mainland. After Yun Ba obtained the water of life, he went into seclusion. He used the water of life to purify the amniotic fluid poison in his body. However, compared to Yin Songhai's recovery and Yuan Sha Painting's recovery, this process was much longer and much longer. One night, Yunsheng had just laid down. She was still living in the medicine hall of Wushuan Everlasting Palace. Suddenly, Yunsheng opened her eyes. She could feel a powerful wave of energy forming. This fluctuation was felt by everyone in the Jade capital. Of course, Yunsheng came out of the medicine hall and leaped onto the roof. She looked in the direction of the powerful fluctuation from afar. What surprised her was that the fluctuation came from the direction of the Yun residence. Someone is about to break through. This feeling, could it be? Yunsheng murmured. Yun Ba began his seclusion. His closed-door cultivation, this time, could be considered extremely dangerous. In the past 3 years, Yun Ba had suffered the indignation of being reduced from a martial saint to a cripple. He had also suffered the humiliation of being humiliated by the imperial court's old officials, including Grand Secretary Chun, under the pretext of visiting him. On the other hand, he was also very worried about his granddaughter, Yunsheng, who was in the immortal Zhu nation and whose whereabouts were unknown. Fortunately, Yun Songhai had remarried. He also knew that Yun Songxue had remarried and that his grandson, Tang Yu, was more sensible than before. Only then did he feel gratified. This continued until Yunsheng returned to the Yun residence and brought back the spring of life. His eldest son, Yun Songhai, who had been in a coma for many years, woke up. At that moment, Yun Ba breathed a sigh of relief. He held back his tears. When he came out of Yun Songhai's courtyard, his eyes were red. When he returned to his own courtyard, He couldn't help but cry loudly in front of his wife's memorial tablet. The old general cried as he pinched his nose. "Wife, the children are back. I'm going into closed-door cultivation tomorrow. If it fails, I'll go directly to find you." Yunba had a strong temper. In the past 3 years, he didn't show it on the surface, but in his heart, he was extremely sullen. He was a martial saint. If the spring of life didn't cure him this time, he would become a complete cripple. He would rather go with his wife. With this thought in mind, Yunba began his closed-door cultivation. He set aside Madame Yun's memorial tablet and drank the spring of life in one gulp. The spring of life was the purest water of the fairy race. It was also a miraculous water element nurtured by the immortal Holy Grail. It had super strong purification and healing effects. Yuan Shahua and Yun Sanghai's injuries had been healed by the spring of life. When Yun Ba drank the spring of life in one gulp, he was still a little apprehensive. He smacked his lips. Why doesn't it have any taste? It can't be a fake, can it? As if to protest Yun Ba's muttering, Yun Ba felt a cold sensation in his lower abdomen. That feeling was as if someone had cast an ice magic on his body. From the soles of his feet to his shoulders, then to his head, it gradually stiffened. At the same time, the magical beast amniotic fluid in Yun Ba's spinal cord also felt the invasion of the spring of life. Magical beast amniotic fluid and the spring of life were both the strangest water in the world. Magical beast amniotic fluid was the filthy water left behind by a powerful magical beast before it was born. On the other hand, the spring of life was purifying water. These two types of evil and purifying water were like light and darkness. These two forces were like fire and water. They were incompatible and wanted to devour each other. Yun Ba felt as if there was a hand inside his body that was desperately tearing at him. It could tear him in half at any time. It was also the constant stalemate of these two forces that caused Yun Ba's old and decaying body to radiate with a brand new energy. This energy was very terrifying. It was like a surging sea, wave after wave. It constantly attacked Yun Ba's old and withered meridians. It was greedy and savage. After an unknown period of time, a huge force spurted out from Yun Ba's body. It was like a dormant volcano that had been accumulating for countless years suddenly erupting. Yun Ba's body shook. A huge pillar of light broke through the entire courtyard and shot straight into the clouds. In an instant, the night of the Jade Capital was as bright as day. Lead clouds gathered in the direction of the Jade Capital's Yun residence. It was like the eve of a summer thunderstorm, faintly showing signs of movement. In the lead-gray clouds, there were faint streaks of light that resembled twisting snakes. They flashed continuously, nurturing a terrifying power. In the Yun residence, the few people who were waiting for the results of Yun Ba's closed-door cultivation could no longer hold themselves back. They all stood up at the same time. Yun Sanghai and Yun Songlong both looked at the sky. They had both noticed this extremely unusual scene. What's that? Not good. Could it be that the spring of life and magical beast amniotic fluid are too powerful? They actually unexpectedly allowed the old general to break through. It's just that this breakthrough is no small matter. When Yun Sheng saw this scene, she recalled what she had encountered when she was plucking the 9-leaf purple ginseng. This situation was almost exactly the same as when a saint-grade herb evolved into a divine-grade herb. Heavenly lightning. Could it be that after decades of silence, Yun Ba's martial saint bottleneck had finally loosened and he had reached the stage of breaking through? Could it be that he had received his heavenly lightning body tempering in advance? Chapter 524. The scale of this heavenly lightning body tempering was much greater than Yun Songlong's heavenly lightning body tempering. After all, Yun Ba had advanced from a martial saint to a martial emperor. It had been many years since a martial emperor had appeared in Zhou State. The Yun brothers and Yun Sangxue also became nervous. Even that kid Tang Yu had his mouth wide open as he stared at the sky, dumbfounded. Heavens, That lightning in the sky was too terrifying. "Father," second uncle, "you must help." Yin Sheng had already rushed to the residence. When she saw this scene, Yin Sheng was also shocked. She also did not expect that the spring of life would bring about such a special effect. That time, she had Yi Baiming's help. The two of them had used a miraculous magical resonance to resist the heavenly lightning. However, Yun Ba's heavenly lightning this time appeared to be much more powerful than the 9-leaf purple ginsengs. Yin Sheng was only one person. She did not have much confidence in being able to resist the heavenly lightning this time. If Yun Ba had received the heavenly lightning in his normal state, with his cultivation as a martial saint, it would naturally not be a problem. However, this time, Yin Ba had unexpectedly broken through after consuming the spring of life while being poisoned by the amniotic fluid of a demonic beast. He was now like a cripple. How could he possibly withstand the heavenly lightning? Among the few people present, only the sky Magus Yin Songhai and the martial saint body Yun Ba could help. Yin Songlong hesitated for a moment. He glanced at his elder brother. After Yin Songhai and his father had a falling out, the two of them had not officially reconciled. His elder brother probably still held some grudges in his heart. "My body, hair, and skin were all given to me by my parents. This time, Big Brother will not abandon you in the calamity of the Yun residence." Yin Songhai nodded. Yin Songlong glanced at Yuan Shahua. Yuan Shahua's expression was gentle. "Husband, rest assured." Seeing this, the Yun brothers' eyes became even more resolute. Yun Songhai held the magic scepter in his hand, and a pair of magic wings appeared on his body. Yun Songlong also transformed his battle chi into wings, and the two of them jumped into the air at almost the same time. The power of the thunderstorm in the clouds became more and more violent. Countless lightning bolts shot out of the clouds like little snakes. The thunderstorm energy mixed with it crackled faintly, as if it would explode at any moment. Yun Ba closed his eyes and quietly waited for the moment when the heavenly lightning would strike. Rumble. A bolt of lightning, which contained the most terrifying power of nature, tore apart the lead-colored clouds and smashed down like a cannonball with the force of 1,000 caddies. Yun Ba's courtyard was instantly flattened by the power of the thunderclap. The trees, the roof tiles, everything in the courtyard was instantly reduced to ashes. Everything seemed insignificant in front of the power of nature between the heavens and the earth. When the roof exploded, Yun Ba didn't dodge. He was like a Buddha statue that had been sitting in a temple for eternity, emotionless, fearless, and unfazed. His heart was like the calm surface of a lake. Life and death, whether it was a cripple or a martial saint, they were all reduced to dust by the power of lightning at that moment. In life, fame and fortune were nothing but fleeting clouds. Lightning bolts struck down one after another, and Yun Ba's body was already covered in blood and flesh. Pain and numbness were no longer important. At that moment, Yun Ba suddenly felt that the power of the lightning striking his body had weakened by a lot. Could it be that even Tiendo looked down on his old bones and was too lazy to deal with him? He couldn't help but feel suspicious. He raised his turbid eyes and stared blankly at the sky. The scene that entered his eyes made Yun Ba's heart tremble involuntarily. In the sky, Yun Songhai and Yun Songlong had used their bodies to block the most violent lightning strikes for him. This was a bolt of lightning struck Yun Songhai's shoulder with a boom. Yun Ba only felt pain on his shoulder. That was his eldest son, that high-spirited eldest son who had left the family for many years and refused to acknowledge his ancestors even when he was at his lowest. Another snake-like purple lightning struck Yun Songlong's limbs. That was his second son, who had been crippled for many years. There was once when he, as his father, had given up on him. His wife's dying words vaguely flashed through his mind. "Ba, it's enough for me to marry you in this life. If fate wills it in the next life, we will be husband and wife again. I'll leave the children to you. In the first half of your life, you fought on a battlefield for the country. I only hope that in the latter half of your life, you will be surrounded by children and grandchildren. Everyone in the Yun residence will be worry-free. Boom! A bolt of lightning that resembled a purple centipede blasted Madame Yun's memorial tablet away from Yunba. The memorial tablet broke into two halves at the waist. Yunba was furious. He suddenly leapt up, his long hair, which had been half burnt by the lightning, flying in the wind. I originally wanted to die peacefully, but this damned lightning. Heavenly lightning. F*CKU. I want to be reunited with my wife, but you won't let me be at ease. Die, die, die. He couldn't even protect his wife's memorial tablet, nor could he protect his children and relatives. F*CK. The heavens are unfair. I'll fight you to the death. Yun Ba stood in the pillar of light, an inextinguishable ball of fighting aura burning in his body. He stood upright, raised his head, and soared into the sky. The fury in his eyes was like a river bursting out of a dam. He roared, and a heavenly axe made of fighting aura appeared in his hand. The heavenly axe shone with spiritual light. In the sky, the Yun brothers, who intended to bear part of the heavenly lightning's power for their father, were fighting fiercely. They didn't expect that at this moment, a strange force would shoot up from ground. Even with their cultivation bases, they were unable to discern what that strange force was. The lead-colored thundercloud above the residence of Yun in Jade Capital was actually cut into two halves by the uncanny force that was like the autumn wind sweeping away the fallen leaves. The wind swept away the clouds, and the dragon soared for thousands of miles. Yun Songhai and Yun Songlong both retreated, looking at the crazy, strange force with fear as it charged into the clouds. The power of lightning in the clouds struck down, but the strange force clashed with the power of lightning again and again. It had actually crippled the power of lightning. The Yun brothers' clothes were dripping with sweat like a small stream. When the lead-colored clouds in the sky dispersed, the strange force finally revealed its true appearance. It was their father, Yun Ba, who was wearing tattered armor and had hair like a chicken's nest. Yun Ba was covered in wounds, but he held the heavenly axe with fighting aura as he stood in the sky, looking down at the entire Jade Capital. His originally turbid old eyes were exceptionally clear after experiencing the heavenly lightning. It was only today that he saw the vastness of heaven and earth and the power of all things. The Jade Capital was so big, but the only thing that could truly accommodate him was the Yun residence. Only the Yun residents would listen to him in times of danger. "Father!" The two brothers shouted in unison. Their little hearts did not forget to beat a few times in their chests. You're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.